Buck Show. It's uncut, it's unfiltered. This is the show of shows. This is the biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred.
Speaking his mind.
I've never had a problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way.
Exploring hot topics.
Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do.
And spreading the gospel of drag racing.
I respect the history. I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. This is the great American motorsport, drag racing.
The West Buck Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Hey gang, Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, checking in. It is Wednesday, September 14th, 2022. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us. Means the world to us every Wednesday to be joined by the drag racing masses here to bench race, talk shop, spread the gospel of drag racing. It warms our heart every week. Thank you guys so much. Remember, click like, click share, click subscribe, join the movement, help us do the Lord's work, right? Talk about drag racing on Wednesday afternoon. We got a barn burner of a show lined up for you today. We'll be checking in here in about 20 minutes. Are we a little late? I don't know how that happened. But anyways, we will be checking in about 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time with the promoter of the Shakedown Nationals. That's right, a drag race that has been serving up history and record-setting moments, barrier-breaking moments for as long as I can remember. Honestly, I think that one of the reasons Drag Illustrated even exists is to celebrate the Shakedown. I mean, for those of you hardcores that remember it, way back when, the Shakedown at E-Town at one of my favorite drag strips of all time, Old Bridge Township Raceway in Englishtown, New Jersey. I mean, that event meant so much to me. That event started in 2004. Drag Illustrated started in 2005. We tried to celebrate that tradition every October for years and years and years. A decade later, the event goes from, oh my goodness, you have to really kind of get your arms around the history of the Shakedown at E-Town. It started out in Englishtown, New Jersey. It moved momentarily to Palm Beach International Raceway in Jupiter, Florida. Then it rebounded with a real solid effort from the Bader family there in Norwalk, Ohio at Summit Motorsports Park. They carried on the event for 4 or 5 years, several years. I can't remember exactly how long it was before it arrived at its current home in its current form at Virginia Motorsports Park as a passion project of sorts for Tommy Franklin, the owner of the facility, as well as his right-hand man, Tyler Crossnoe, grabbed a hold of the beast that is the Shakedown and have turned it into one of the most exciting, most talked about, and all-around premier independent drag racing events on the planet Earth. Of course, that's coming up this coming weekend. We'll be talking with Tyler about all the things that they have going on, but namely a big money pro mod shootout that certainly has my attention. Then at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, we will be joined by Clay Millican. I believe him to be everyone's favorite Top Fuel driver. If as often as we can get this guy in front of a camera, we need to be doing so. We're going to talk to Clay, not really about points and race implications. I think, to be honest, I'm most interested to learn a little bit more about Rick Ware Racing. Unless you were living under a rock, you likely know that the team changed hands. The team that Clay's been driving for the last several years, the Top Fuel operation led by the Parts Plus relationship, was purchased, I guess, in the build-up to the U.S. Nationals by Rick Ware, sold from Doug Stringer Motorsports to Rick Ware, who is a very well-established NASCAR team owner, IMSA team owner, I believe a motocross or supercross team owner, and he added a Top Fuel operation to his repertoire, if you will. And I think it's a huge move for the sport of drag racing. I think it's fantastic news. It's kind of the second domino to fall after Tony Stewart arrived in our sport. So anyways, all around good news, and I can't wait to kind of pick this whole thing apart with Clay Millican, as well as preview the fast approaching NHRA countdown to the championship that starts this coming weekend at Maple Grove Raceway in Reading, Pennsylvania. But before I do that, as always, I am joined by my cohorts here at Drag Illustrated Magazine, the one and only Mike Carpenter, JT Murder T Hudson. What's going on, guys?
What's up?
Team missed the memo on the black shirts, so he went with double Kansas City.
Double Kansas City.
How excited are you for Thursday night's game?
Excited, man.
Excited.
It's gonna be a tough one, though.
It's hard not to be excited when you're a Chiefs fan.
The Chiefs look good, bro.
I'm salty.
We went through some seriously rough times, though. We deserve this.
Yeah,
man. Every time I see Patrick Mahomes do one of those like half-hearted tosses, sidearm. It just my heart grows like a few sizes, like the Grinch. I say it a lot, but it's true. Because it just seems so effortless.
Well, he just does shit that's not supposed to be done. It's
crazy.
like they teach you. You do not do that.
Do not ever throw the ball sidearm. Do not ever have it out there that far away from your body.
I mean, in any type of sports, and you could put that in drag racing or anything else. You've got in your mind, what a quarterback should do, or what, how you tune a car or whatever. But outside of the box, I mean, he goes to any
that's
other
my
team.
claim. That's my whole
he goes
argument.
to any other team besides Andy Reid, and they fix him. They try to fix it. And
I tell you what, let's talk about David
Grubnick.
I think David Grubnick, crew chief for Brittany Force, who has dominated the record books in recent history, leading the top fuel points with driver Brittany Force. I think you're onto something, T, because I've seen it limit people for years operating within a predetermined box, right? You get a crew chief that is going, hey, these are the wheel speed numbers I'm comfortable with. This is, here's the
or I'm not going to go after it. I'm not going to go after it in the heat or E1.
Right.
And that's been the most, that's been the most unconventional thing that I've seen Grubby do, in my opinion, is to just, keep laying it to it.
It
even
would
when you
appear to
don't
me,
necessarily have to.
From the outside looking in,
about it. We heard Greg Anderson talk about it last week.
Yeah,
that you kind of get to resting on your laurels or whatever, and you just keep on
doing what you've always done.
Yep. And then all of a sudden, and then he said, well, Elite found something, so
we better start looking.
We better start figuring something out.
And it's funny because I think that can help you on a multitude of levels, right? Not only are you perhaps going to perform better if you stick with the Patrick Mahomes analogy, hey, you're going to play well and you're going to have some big plays and whatnot, and you're going to have him make something happen when it seems like nothing's available. But it also goes back to that getting out of your comfort zone and looking for it somewhere, like Greg was talking about with Elite Motorsports. Somewhere they figured out something, so we better start digging. Don't know where it's going to be. Is it going to be in the bell housing? Is it going to be under the, between those slicks on the back of the car? Is it going to be under the hood? Do we need some power? But you've got to be looking for it all the time, especially when you get to that level. It's a really interesting thing, but I'm telling you, I've seen it time and time again where I've interviewed or talked to a crew chief and they're maybe in a slump or they're struggling, and they almost always have this song and dance that sounds something like, well, we've never gone beyond this, and this is how we've always done it. And man,
we got to get back to our notes.
And it's like, no. I don't think that guy is using notes. I mean, maybe he is, but I think he is going, you know what? We've never tried this before, but we don't have any reason not to. And it's funny because you can start to win games or win rounds of racing because you start to get in other people's heads. I talked to Mike Salinas about this early in the year, and he said, man, I think what's happening, Mike Salinas came on, was off to a hot start. What did he win? 4 races pretty quickly in the 2022 NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series. And then things kind of started to fall, not to plateau to an extent. And I remember talking to Mike. I was at the gym, and that was a little slight humble brag. I was there getting jacked. You know what I'm saying? The whole deal, getting swole. And I was talking to Mike, and he goes, I think we're all chasing Grubby. And it was cool to hear him be so candid, because he goes, I think we're all feeling this pressure to run 338 and run bottom 460s every time we drop the bomb on it. And we're beating ourselves. And it's funny because, I think you're going to see that. Going all the way back to our Kansas City Chiefs here, T, I think we're going to see people try to out-trick themselves or try to be Patrick Mahomes. And if you don't have Patrick Mahomes, you probably can't do that stuff.
Right. But every athlete's different as far as, so is every car, so is every chassis. So is it, so is every combination. So, you have to adapt to what you have. And, it's a great analogy, really. And I truly believe that, if he goes to a different coach, it's going to be completely different. They're going to fix him. You're not going to be throwing those passes. You're going to be staying in the pocket. Everything evolves in sports, no matter what the sport is. If you take quarterbacks, you started out with pocket passers, then you have dual threat quarterbacks. Now you got these guys doing some crazy shit, and they're launching the ball like 70 yards and, and dropping it on a dime. I mean, everything evolves, and you better move with it, or you're gonna be left behind.
Do you think that like all the things that you just outlined? I saw a stat over the weekend watching football that like I think it's like Mahomes, somebody else, maybe Aaron Rodgers, and our boy Baker Mayfield, who's my homie. We're close. We're thick as thieves. And Baker, they're like super accurate at 70+ yard passes. Did you see that stat, Mike, where it's like there's a couple of quarterbacks that are especially another humble brag. Okay. He's in his private seats or whatever by the coach's
owner's suite.
Yeah, the owner's suite. But there's certain quarterbacks that are especially good when it comes to throwing the deep ball. And I think that the same thing exists in drag racing, and it's made me wonder, you've heard me talk about it right here on this show, should we not run some of these races 8th mile, run some of them 1,000 foot, run a couple of them quarter mile? When we go to Virginia and we got 6 miles worth of shutdown, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just think it's kind of interesting because everybody thrives in it. I venture to say that you give Scott Palmer 3-4 runs at an 8th mile shootout, he may be as good as anybody. You know what I'm saying? But then you get some of these guys that are better at hitting the long ball or making these full pull quarter mile runs. I just think that that's an interesting concept that has never been fully fleshed out, right? Like, they say still to this day that the most common complaint that the NHRA gets from its fan base is the move from a quarter mile to 1,000 feet. And I think it's safe to say that we are never, at least at this point in time, I don't see any writing on the wall that would indicate that we're going to return to a quarter mile. But maybe we could do it twice a year. Maybe we could do it at a couple of the especially long tracks where their shutdown is abundant. It seems possible, and it would be cool.
You'd have to have a different rule set.
Oh, for sure.
Because they wouldn't, the tire, I don't think, could take it. Goodyear can say what they want.
They go 400 miles an hour.
They don't want to find out. They don't want to find out. Speaking of 400 miles an hour, or how about 4 seconds?
Okay, we got a lot to cover here.
In a quarter mile. How about this rocket propelled bike in Santa Pod?
Let's give it up for Eric Thibault. What a deal. I hardly know what to say about this. If you haven't seen it, JT, could you pull this up for me and post in the comments the link, dragillustrated.com. It's the primary story on the website right now. Eric Thibault clocks 4-second quarter mile on 2 wheels. It was written by Brett Kepner. It's such a breakdown of this. So, like, it takes it to another level, and it's awesome. Randy
because
Close in the comments saying rocket bike is the coolest thing in 2022.
It might be, dude. It's wild, and to know all the chemical reactions and all
Brett's
the
calling it the run of the run of the year.
Yeah, well, I mean, Brett's breakdown of it though is there's no more comprehensive explanation of how this happened, how it led up to this, and the fact that really this thing is only limited by how much they're willing to put in the tank.
Can you imagine?
And they've been only running this thing to like the 8th mile or 1,000 foot. And so this guy, what made this run spectacular, made it into the 4 seconds, is that he put like 2 drops extra of hydrogen peroxide so that it went a little bit further and broke that barrier. So pretty wild, man.
The whole situation is, you know what my big takeaway was, and I think that we need to give some kudos. And I forget to do this, and I would like to ask everybody, where are you checking in from? Throw it in the comments. We love to know where you guys are watching from, whether it's here in the continental United States, down here in Texas next to me, or anywhere around the world. We love to know where you're checking in from. But I want to give some kudos to the team at Santa Pod Raceway. I spent this morning just looking at old YouTube videos of Eric Thibault and this making passes on this rocket-powered motorcycle.
He's run this thing all over the place. Not just that. I mean, good tracks, bad tracks.
A lot of places.
All over.
But I love the way they presented this at Santa Pod. The Santa Pod Raceway over in England, they have done an incredible job with really building this guy up into being a superstar. Right? He's out there, and the way that, I mean, if you watch that video that's embedded in the Drag Illustrated, they've got everybody with their cell phone lights up, their cell phone, what do you call it? Flashlights on.
Well, they had him come out on the starting line and kind of put on his gear and do this whole build up.
The whole time I'm watching it, I'm going, I hope to God someone in America is watching this, because it is massively important. That type of presentation, just wait. what we've got coming down the pike here in the next couple of months, what we're going to do next year at Drag Illustrated, this is the type of thing that drag racing needs so badly. Guys like Eric, there's a slew of guys like him. You know, I look around our sport and I see hundreds, if not thousands, of real deal rock star heroes that deserve that type of treatment, deserve that level of pomp and circumstance. And I actually, you know, this is rumored, Mike, to be the last time he'll run that bike.
Yeah, that's what he says in the article. And I don't blame him. Because, I mean, I don't either, if you look at
the towel on that deal, dog.
If you look at this thing, it's wild because it's silent. It's just dead silent. And then everyone's saying this guy's got to have a major pair of cojones to do this. And he does, because the thing's silent. I don't know if it's running. I don't know exactly how this works, but it's like, he's like the announcer's saying, he's going to give us a signal when he's ready. And then you can see him. He's got to like hype himself up, and he gives the signal, slams his visor shut. And then literally it's on.
I would want Bill Goldberg to like walk up and slap me as hard as possible in the helmet and be like, all right, let's do this. Because whenever you see the photos of him dangling his feet,
that's how that rocket pack was. That's how that rocket pack was that was out at Bandamere. Remember?
That was scary.
You know, it was pretty much quiet, and then all of a sudden, you know, and then he goes up.
Do you think that
does a little spin and he's gone? You know?
But can I be? I mean, I'm not trying to bust anybody's balls here, but it's still, to me. Listen, I'm not at all trying to minimize anything about it, right? But there are some mechanical things. No, I'm just saying that, like, this is the argument that I've always made about jet cars. As excited as I can get about a jet car, and I do think it's fantastic. Let's be honest, it is it's a roller skate. Right. So it's
right.
it's rolling. So you're dealing with a different physics, right? Different mechanical functions. And I'm just curious, Brett puts in this article, and I found this to be an especially interesting line. Brett says, seldom has electronic media blasted drag racing news so quickly to every corner of the planet, but the response by nearly every human who received the news was one of dumbfounded silence. And he's talking about the news of this 4.97 second quarter mile run by a guy on a motorcycle. But to me, it lacks almost all the things that make me love drag racing, right? It's not loud. It's not violent.
It's not.
I mean, it's violent. I'm sure it was violent if you were on that.
It's not a wheel. Drag racing at its core is power application and management of applying the tire to the track. And there's none of that here. I mean, and it's crazy, the power to weight ratio too. You're able to achieve when you don't have all of the mechanical systems that traditional drag cars have. Brett says it's got 6,000 pounds of thrust. I'll have to read it again. And it only weighs 600 pounds. So the power to weight ratio on it is far and away higher than any other vehicle in drag racing.
And I mean, listen, if anything else, one of my takeaways from this was that anything can be excited if sold well. I feel like this deal was well sold. I mean, it's built up over years and years and years. This guy it's been on the horizon, right? He's been in the low fives multiple times. So I think the storytelling component was really solid here. Like, they've done a great job of telling this guy's story and building him up as this rocket man, this Evel Knievel type that is, you know, defying the odds. It's been well done. Right. But my big takeaway is, I mean, is this proof positive that maybe we don't need the noise? Like, is this all of a sudden validating for all the electric car guys and gals?
No,
I'm just asking.
Electric racing is going to face that same stigma and uphill battle. If and when that becomes the standard or norm, we're gonna miss all of the noise and fuel and smoke and everything that we love about drag racing. So,
well, if you've seen an electric car make a pull like we have, it's pretty underwhelming. I mean,
what's wild is you hear the tires.
I know it's fast, but but it's like
all you hear is tire squeal.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean,
I just do find it interesting.
Which it's a wild thing, man. Sometimes back when my dad was racing, I used to just depending on the acoustics of the track or maybe the headset or something, you could actually hear the tire spinning.
I know
a little bit over the engine, but I mean barely, and only rarely could you actually
turbo
hear
cars.
That.
A turbo Pro Mod delivers that in spades.
But in the electric deal, that's all you hear.
I'm just raising the question. I got accosted while we were at the NHRA US Nationals in the hotel bar one night by somebody telling me that, yeah, you got accosted every night. Signing
I got
in
accosted
now.
by JT.
Okay. Yeah, you did. Hold on, I'm getting a text. What is this about? Oh, totally irrelevant.
Going
Anyways,
bracket racing, good stat here. 6,000 pounds of thrust is roughly equivalent to 4,640 horsepower in a less than 600 pound vehicle.
well, I'm going to backtrack on anything I've said, basically, because I'm not straddling 4,600 horsepower for any reason. There's no chance that I don't even want to be in the same zip code as that thing. But I just think that the whole deal, to me, like I said, going back to Indy, I was being accosted one night in the hotel lobby bar by a lady who was telling me about electrification, right? And that, electric cars are the future, and that's where everything is going, and that we're behind times. I need to get my head out of the sand, and it's all about electric cars. And I pitched a few arguments that I
would have broke a bottle and
well, I fought back. I just said, hey, listen, I appreciate the technology. Like, I'm a geek. Like, I love electronics and I love the latest, greatest technology. And Mike, what's that thing you say about Drag Illustrated, that we're a technology company that deals in media, right? We've pride ourselves on embracing new technology, embracing software, trying new things. So I feel like I'm an open-minded guy, but I don't have to look much further than like the huge power outage and crisis that we had down here in Texas a couple of years ago during the DFW freeze. It's going on right now in California. But it's like, I personally don't believe there is a nationwide infrastructure that's going to support all of us going electric in a month. I just don't think it's going to happen. And that was my only argument to this young lady, was that I think this is all at the wrong pace. I'm not saying that we won't all have electric cars someday, but it's not happening next month. It's not happening next year. I don't think it's happening in 10 years. But I do recognize that there is a significant group of people that are passionate about this stuff. So I'm not saying, and the reason I bring the electrification up at all is just because I do wonder if, as impressive as that rocket-powered pass was from Eric Teboul, sans the sans the many things that we know as being interesting and exciting from a drag racing perspective, sans those things, it was still it's massively well received. We're talking about it right now. We've been talking about it for a half hour. Maybe there is a future for electric drag racing. I don't know.
I don't know, man.
There's not.
Making a big jump from hydrogen peroxide to electricity here.
It's silent. My point is that it's quiet.
It's not silent. It's like squeals, whatever that sound is.
Yeah, but it's pretty bad to watch. I mean, we watched it. You can tell they're going fast, but it doesn't seem like they're
it looks like it's in fast forward. First time I watched it, I was like, what's wrong with this video? It's in fast forward.
That ain't no joke.
It's like, well, there's a reason Traxxas puts those little sound chips in their remote control cars, right?
Kyle Loftus from 1320 Video made a post about, like, I'm going to butcher this. Gosh, I wish I had it in front of me. JT, you should pull this up. Go look up Kyle Loftus on Facebook. But he put, like, we all have microwaves, but that doesn't mean we don't want to cook our burger on a barbecue grill. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's cooking their burgers in a microwave. Yeah, it can cook them, and it can probably cook them faster, but nobody wants one. Right? And I do think that it's a very similar thing with electric cars. Like, whenever I saw David Freiberger post up that video of the Dodge, like the newfound Dodge Challenger or whatever the hell it's going to be, that's got an electric engine in it, and they have sound effects.
Have you heard the sound effects, though? They're terrible.
I have. They're terrible.
Sounds like a cat dying.
I've got a couple of cats. We should kill one and see what happens.
You're familiar with that sound.
I'm familiar with that sound. It's yeah, man. I was so underwhelmed by it. And I also thought, like, man, are we starting to believe our own bullshit? Like, in the industry, like, no one's buying that thing. No one. Like, I'm not saying there won't be some well-to-do collector buy it, but no one's buying it and taking it to cars and coffee.
How about the electric?
He got roasted on that post too.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the post where there's like the new electric Ford F-150 towing a boat, and the owner said that he was able to tow it 54 miles before the battery was dead?
I'm going to tell you, man, 54 miles, that's kind of my sweet spot. That's what I'm looking for when I buy a $100,000 rig, is I'm just hoping I can make it 50
To the
to
lake.
55 miles.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
To the lake, and then we have to.
I would set it on fire. It'll probably spontaneously combust on its own soon enough. But if I spent that kind of money on something like that, and it would run, it'd pull my boat 54 miles. I'm shooting it full of holes.
Well, that's the problem.
You're moving closer to the lake.
It really illustrates the problem where, like, we're talking about electric semi trucks replacing diesel and all that. Like, how's that going to work?
It ain't.
I mean, it's not, and we're
Unless you can
not to
charge
that
it.
point. You may be able to get a 4-door sedan to work okay off electric right now, but all these other applications, racing, towing, pulling,
all the cool stuff.
We're nowhere close.
I don't think we're anywhere close. And it's, I didn't mean to go necessarily down this electrification route, but I do think it's an interesting thing. It's polarizing, right? A lot of people, so let's go ahead and throw this out there. You can keep your electric car. Keep that devil-made machine away from me. I'm trying to get into heaven out here. You know what I'm saying? And you do that by doing burnouts. Tyler Crossnoe's in the green room, closing his eyes, squinting, shaking his head, but it's true.
He's thinking about just hitting X right now.
I'm trying to get my wings, bro. I'm trying to get my wings. All right, guys. Well, hey, let's go ahead and bring Tyler to the party. Ladies and gentlemen, the promoter of the Shakedown Nationals, the, I believe, 4th iteration of one of drag racing's most celebrated independent events, Tyler Crossnoe, general manager at Virginia Motorsports Park and an all-around great guy, longtime friend of the show. Let's give it up for T Cross, man. What's up, buddy? TC.
What's up? Y'all gonna bring me in after that. So you got everybody all fired up and pissed off. You got half the people cheering, half the people mad. And then
so
like,
what is it, 25?
It's not 50-50.
Let me ask,
50-50.
Is it 25,000 to win electric car?
No.
I was just curious. Pro electric
radio. Yeah, somebody will come up with that crap.
You know what they would have for that deal? Instead of having to have a helmet or like a fire suit, you'd have to have an SFI approved pocket protector. You know what I mean? SFI approved glasses and an SFI approved pocket protector. That's how you get into
you're
pro
gonna want that
EV
fire suit. I don't know if you've seen any of these electric vehicle fires. That thing looks like a nitro fire. You're gonna need an SFI 20 on that bad boy.
Yeah, we'll be out here. Hey, look, you need a 5-layer to run top dragster with it's going to go 440s. You're going to need a 20-layer to come run your EV car.
And don't park it by anything valuable. Put it out there in that field somewhere because we got a lot of real nice motorhomes. Did you see the
cars burned up at the Miami Dolphins game?
Yeah.
That had to be
JT, were you there?
You started by a grill, but the first thing I thought was electric vehicle.
I did
too. Where?
First thing I thought of.
Were you in Miami when those cars all burnt down? That screamed JT Hudson.
Oh yeah. I thought about that. Like, man, JT's really lucky this hasn't happened at a Chiefs game.
Yeah, dude. Do you know what we're talking about?
No, I don't.
There's this video where there's like there's this video at the Miami Dolphins stadium. Fans are coming back out to their cars after the game, and there's like this row of cars, all of them burnt out. Supposedly somebody put a grill back in the trunk or something before it was cooled off, and next thing
JT's done that.
That'll happen. That'll happen. You know, I mean,
this one time
mistakes, man.
Oh my God. Okay, here real quick. Being that Tyler is a well-rounded young man and he's got experience in all walks of the drag racing life, let's just go through the news real quick before we talk about Shakedown. We got like 23 minutes here with Tyler. We're obviously very excited about your event, buddy, but you have a wealth of knowledge here. Were you impressed by the rocket-powered motorcycle deal?
Scared half to death.
Yeah.
No way on God's green earth am I doing anything like that. Look,
man, that thing would go even faster if you were on it.
No kidding. I thought the same thing. I was like, man,
your feet have been dragging.
Oh yeah.
You're just flying on top of it. You're just flying and holding on.
Yeah.
I mean,
we'd have lost a toe or two, but it was worth a number, at least a number and a half.
Okay. So what do you think about we got your reaction to the motorcycle deal, which huge accomplishment. I'm curious, what do you make of, I don't know if you saw this, but Alex Laughlin calls out Ryan Martin. Alex is kind of making a splash over there in the No Prep King world. No Prep King. Well, you know what? It's called No Prep Kings, but until they prove otherwise, there's a single No Prep King, and his name's Ryan Martin. So over there in No Prep King land, what's the over-under amongst the group here? Tyler, I'm going to start with you. What's the chances that Alex Laughlin actually gets to line up with Ryan Martin? Okay.
Does it have to happen at an MPK race, or can it happen anywhere?
Oh, I think it could happen anywhere.
Like,
but I'm talking about this.
No.
We're talking about next weekend or this weekend in Denver.
0%.
Okay, good. All right.
About as much chance of any of us riding that rocket motorcycle.
T.
0.0.
I'm 0, but
Yeah.
I'd like to see it. But
What did you guys make of the call out? I watched it at the gym yesterday. I'm going to
to
drop that again. I was doing a full body training. I'm trying to get back in shape. Mike, what was your take? Did you like the video that Alex did? I personally liked it.
And I mean, we're big fans of Alex, and we're always behind any of this kind of stuff. I don't think it's being all that well received by the NPK community. And there seems to be a lot of saltiness or tension going on right now. I don't know if you guys have seen the teaser for the new season of No Prep Kings that's debuting Monday night. But I mean, that deal looks like a UFC fight.
It made us all stop and look.
I mean, all kinds of stuff going on. Swanstrom jumping over the wall.
He's called out Swanstrom now. Now he's called out Swanstrom. They're going back and forth.
But anyway, I just don't think it's been that well received. And I think it's primarily because, obviously Alex is calling out the top of the pack and guys are in the invitational. And I think that if and when Alex gets in the invitational, that will be something that could happen. But just right now, the risk reward for those guys, I don't think is there.
I talked to him and he said that it's him
real
showing
quick
up.
JT's Stephen A. Smith. It's funny because he's like, I talked to my good buddy. We were at dinner last night. Okay, go ahead.
Dude, that's the greatest analogy I've ever heard. You have to own this from now on.
You need that hairline too. Get it up high. Get it up high, dog. Anyways, you were talking to your best friend in the whole world, the godfather of your children, Alex Laughlin. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, he was just telling me that the perception of him has changed a little bit, he thinks, with the fans, just from showing up and racing and them realizing that he's a good guy. I mean, all this stems from that Richard Rawlings bullshit. So,
yeah, that's true.
And if he could do that all over again, I'm sure he'd do something different. But
and I don't know that he did anything really wrong during all that.
I mean, they still know his name.
No, he didn't do anything wrong. It's all the same stuff that he constantly faces. But if you've ever met Alex or you appreciate what he does from a promotional standpoint and what he represents for drag racing, you have a different outlook. But that doesn't necessarily jive with the MPK deal.
Well, it's interesting because I look at it and I completely agree. And I actually I'm a big fan of Alex's. I personally think he's a great guy, and I've just known him for a long time, and it's been cool to see him, his career trajectory has been fun to watch. I'm proud of him as a young man, but I will tell you that I agree with the notion that it's Ryan Martin's got everything to lose and nothing to gain. I mean, if he outruns Alex Laughlin, whether it's one race or a best 2 out of 3, he outran a car that is knowingly not necessarily built with intentions of racing No Prep Kings, right? This is an old radial tire car that's been, passed around and raced by a dozen different people, ran a 3-second pass at Tyler's race in Memphis with Jason Mahalik behind the wheel, tuned by Billy Stockland.
Freeze in the freeze.
That car has been well raced. And, you got a slew of these other guys in No Prep King competition rolling out, what are essentially state-of-the-art, purpose-built, no-prep cars. They're steel roof and quarter cars that are basically pro mods with pro stock style roof and quarters. So I don't think Ryan Martin, there's no way in the world they're going to allow their John Cena, right, to go out, their whatever main event attraction, to go out there and run the risk of losing to somebody like Alex, because if he wins, you've opened up an entire huge can of worms. But my question, I think what this begs us to ask is, what does a guy gotta do? Because I almost feel like they need to shit can the futures class, because in my opinion, and I know there's some great guys there, and I may upset somebody, but and I love that we've seen Manny Bajinga in that world. We've seen Marty Robertson really thrive in that world. Obviously, Alex Laughlin is now thriving in that world. We've seen Callie Mills come from that world and move into the Invitational. But she seems to be the exception to the rule. Justin Swanstrom, I think, is another exception to the rule. Those are two people, right? That Callie's a young, pretty girl, right, with a really fast race car that's well resourced. I think that you can make an argument for that. Then you've got Justin Swanstrom, well resourced, big personality, big character. He makes sense, but I just don't. I almost think they should close that door and just make it a closed community so that we don't have these. Because I don't think they're ever going to let Alex in. Like, I don't want to upset anybody, but I don't think they're going to do it.
I still think you need to race your way in. Like, I think it'd be cool. Like
I love that idea, but they're protecting themselves.
From the year before or whatever, or where you're at in points in this category can move you up, and you're always on that scale of whether you move down or move up. And I think that'd be actually just.
I love the idea, but you've got to have some balls.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, you do have to have some balls.
Because you've got to say, hey, man, my guys. But you know what? There's a great analogy.
But Alex's personality would be perfect for that show.
I think he could do well there, but here's the analogy. Do you want to be WWE or do you want to be UFC? Right?
Yeah.
And you have to make that decision, in my opinion, somewhere along the way. You have to go, okay, do we want to have this close-knit kind of cordoned off group of people that fight amongst themselves and we keep outsiders out for our own protection? Right? Or do we want to be the UFC and we want to say we want the baddest dudes in the world to come here and fight? And we're not going to turn anyone away that qualifies, right? Because if you go out in the UFC, for instance, and you go win, let's just for the sake of easy examples, layup examples, you go win a world title in Bellator. You go win a world title in Cage of Champions or whatever. You go win all these other series. The UFC is going to kick the doors open for you because they want you to come in and test yourself against their champion, right? And I don't feel that's the case over at MPK. And I'm not saying they're wrong. This is my perspective. I think that they're going down the path of WWE, right, versus the path of UFC. And the path you're talking about, JT, is UFC. It's saying, hey, you're talking about a tough man competition.
I am, yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
You know what I mean? Like right now, you don't have a second league for MPK.
No.
Like where you said you don't have a tough man in comparison to MPK. So that's kind of like, what do you use in comparison?
So why pretend is my question. Why pretend? Why pretend that you're going to let someone in? You're not going to let somebody in.
Either do it or don't.
You're not going to let somebody in. You might let somebody in if they fit X, Y, Z thing.
At the same time, though.
But Street Outlaws MPK spoilers right here. But UFC ain't letting some guy walking off the street come in and fight their champion.
And that's
bullshit. They have, though.
Yeah, they have
Kimbo Slice. I mean, it's happened a multitude of times.
Yeah. They
took Kimbo Slice from a backyard, right, to the UFC. And now, granted, they made him work his way up, but they did it. They paid him, right, to be on the fighter, the what's it called, the Ultimate Fighter, the reality show, and then they put him immediately into a main event slot, right? And that was after the dude had been a part of one of the biggest mixed martial arts fights in the history of the world on NBC Sports, right? And I mean, unfortunately, he got knocked out. But my point is just that that's not necessarily true. They do let people come in. I mean, they had, what's a great example? What's the kid's name, Mike? You know him. With the crosses on his hands. He was a UFC or CM Punk.
Oh, yeah.
CM Punk wanted to make a run at UFC. And what did Dana White and the UFC do? They cleared the path for him. Come on in, buddy. Homeboy got the shit kicked out of him at every turn. He could hardly survive a practice, let alone getting in the ring, in the octagon with a trained killer, So I don't know that argument is really that valid.
We still haven't seen one of these guys show up for a whole year and run the futures class or whatever. And
he fought for a main event
and show commitment that they're going to, be there for every race for a year. And I know that's a lot to ask somebody to do, but the payoff, if the payoff is the invitational, we don't know that yet. What if somebody does show up and just dominates that futures class for a year and shows up at every race. And then what do you do? Because you're like, okay, this guy is serious, and or guy or gal is serious.
Well, and
and
even, like,
do you
even
move him up then?
On that same stage, JT, you could even say something like, okay, there's 20 races. Let's just use that for an example. Hey, you need to attend 10 of them, and we're going to take your best and count points and do the whole thing for that deal. And we're going to take your 10 best races. You can attend 15. You're only getting 10. And those two guys maybe have a way to race in the next year. But I'm like you, and I think that this follows Wes's deal as well. They're going to make you prove that you're going to show up. It's not going to be a come run.
Yeah, what they're doing, they're in control.
They don't care if you
they
win or
got the
lose.
leverage. Yeah, they got the leverage, and that's what they're doing is best for them. But you know what's funny? You know what's funny?
Is it though?
Tyler thought he was coming on here to talk about Shakedown. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
We're talking everything under the sun.
Yeah, sorry, everybody.
Sorry, Tyler.
I mean, just to go back up though, man, I really think that it's, and Frank Falone here is in the comments saying that it's a TV show. And I agree. And everybody keeps saying that, but then everybody gets all sensitive when it's a TV show. You know what I'm saying? I think
you
it's
pick one and ride.
You got to pick one and ride. And it's like, dude, we can't be, because here's the thing that I get frustrated about. If I compare any of the No Prep King guys to anybody else in traditional drag racing, let's say the stars of Tyler's PDRA, Pro Boost, Pro Nitrous, I get, all sorts of feedback and commentary that like, oh no, our guys could go run with them any day of the week. Well, let's prove it. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's prove it. Let's prove it. I mean, I almost think, Tyler, at the Shakedown, you should say, I'll pay anybody from that whole world, the no prep world, that wants to come and try on one of these guys for size. Feel free. Like, we'll park you in the staging lanes. We'll pay for your testing. I mean, I just think that that's where, right? I mean, I'm just saying, man. It's,
put in a bow on the NPK deal. Monday night, we're bringing back the ride along, right, Wes?
Are we?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Me and JT decided it. Sorry.
Oh, did you?
So join us if you would like.
Okay, I'll think about it. I'll let you guys know.
Tyler, join us too.
Yeah, Tyler.
Is Virginia on it? I was on it last year. Where are we starting on
that? Where is the first race of the MPK season?
I was early.
Hold on.
I think I was really early in the year. Of
course, isn't it in Florida?
Kevin Stevenson will tell me before.
Of course, I'll be the one that's like, oh, your track was where Ryan Martin blew up. It's your fault.
It was Virginia, man. It was Virginia.
It was me.
April 22nd. I'm pretty sure.
Holy crap.
No,
Did you guys?
No. Sorry, it was Palm Beach, April 8th. And then yours was 2 weeks later.
I was second.
Street out. Yeah, Kevin's got it. Florida than if.
Yeah, Kevin treated me, as always.
Kevin treated you.
It happens.
Real quick, if you had to fight someone, would you rather fight Dwayne Mills or Pat Musey? Tyler, you go.
Neither one of them.
Okay, good answer.
We're going to
find.
Dwayne's a big man.
It doesn't look good.
I'd probably rather fight
preview.
Pat as long as he didn't have his baseball bat.
Yeah, Mike.
No.
Oh man, we're going to see the results of that in a couple of episodes. But that little preview snippet is wild.
I've almost had to run in with Pat once before.
I remember that.
Neither one is the correct answer.
Neither is the correct answer.
Look, I got it right here. Have you ever tried to park either one of those guys at a racetrack? Look here, let me tell you something. It's over.
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
All
right, let's talk about the Shakedown, Tyler. This is an event. Why don't you take us through, if you've got a minute here, why why this whole deal came to be? And I know that you're younger than I am, but you kind of came of age during the same era as I, where the Shakedown at E-Town was this like biblical event. It was like a religious experience. We all paid attention to this event every fall. Many of the records were set. Anybody who was anybody was at this race. And I do find it interesting that as this thing was starting to flounder and looking like it was going to go the way of the dodo, you, Tommy, Judy, the team at VMP stepped in and swooped this deal up. I mean, how proud are you of keeping this tradition going? And what can we expect this coming weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it was really special. I can remember Bill Bader picked the phone up and was like, man, I'm kind of done with this deal. After it left Englishtown for the 10 years with David Hance, I went to Norwalk and Bader had it. And Bill was just kind of like, man, I can't get good weather. It doesn't fit my schedule really good, blah, blah, blah. And I actually went up and raced it whenever I was still racing Ultra Street. And, man, it's a really special race. Really different feel. Just cool deal. And it's, I mean, let's be honest, it's the same class as you run in a lot of other places. It's the same. You're still blazing down a racetrack. You're going 660 feet, that kind of thing. But just the fact of being at the Shakedown, just because of all the history, that's where the historical side of the sport comes to being special. And man, it's just a different vibe because you can go on that list of winners of the Shakedown, and I was 4 thousandths away from it, and Sean Pevlar took it from me. But whenever I had the opportunity, that the phone rang, and Bill Bader Jr. was gracious enough to give me that opportunity. As soon as I picked the phone up and Tommy and I talked about it, it was like, yes. And Wes, I actually think you were the first one that I called after.
And I think I told you no.
You did. You want me to tell you exactly what you told me? I remember it to this day because I was actually
chasing ghosts.
Yep, here we go. Nope, you're chasing ghosts. You need to put a new name on it. Shakedown's dead. Never. Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, you made me think about it because it's
true. Not that Shakedown was dead. I just knew
the name was wore out.
And I worry sometimes drag racing, and this is something that I think we can riff on for a minute because I say this to promoters a lot, that I think that drag racers, we all have this, like, we have a case of glory day-itis that we're never going to kick, right? 100%. We're never going to get rid of it. And it's fine. We look at the sport of drag racing through rose-colored glasses, especially when we look backwards. And my fear for you, as someone who I thought was, and who I still feel is doing big things, moving our sport in the right direction, I was worried that you were going to get distracted chasing the ghost of yesteryear, because we've seen it, right? I mean, we've seen it. Perhaps there's no better example that exists than all the people that have tried to revitalize the ADRL, right? The ADRL was that was a moment in time that was special. I was there. It was a special moment in time, but that moment in time has passed. And I've seen multiple people try to reinvigorate it and try to throw money at it. And that's not what does it. It's a moment in time, and that moment has come and went. And I was worried for you, just being honest. You know, I'm going, and I told you this. I said, we have a penchant for chasing ghosts, and I'm not so sure that you wouldn't be better off to just brand your own deal. But to my credit, you did. You didn't make it the Shakedown in the forest, you know what I mean, or the Shakedown amongst the trees. You made it the Shakedown Nationals. You tried to put your own spin on it, and I believe you have. I mean, it started out with an event that was kind of co-headlined by a big money pro mod race and a Radio versus the World race. In 20 or 19, it culminated in this. What was it called? The shoot at it was. What did you call it? Judgment Day, the radials versus the slick tire deal, which was extremely well received. And it has now settled into a big money pro mod race. But man, I think you have put your own spin on it. And that's really what I think I was getting at, is that it needed renewed energy, a new approach. And here we are, man.
It did. It needed to be, I'm not going to say it was on life support, but it was one of those deals where it just kind of had gotten flat. Wasn't nothing wrong with it. It was an excellent race in Norwalk. I loved it. I had a blast when I went and raced.
Do you think certain events only work at certain venues, though? Like, God bless Summit Motorsports Park. Bill Bader Jr. and company are, I would say, the best in the business. But I don't know that an outlaw race doesn't really fit there, right?
And the way I look at it is, you take an outlaw race to South Georgia, and I'm going to use Donald's race as an example. You take that race to South Georgia, and it's bad to the bone. Everybody goes there. They know what they're expecting, blah, blah, blah. You take Bill Bader's 9 Under Fire to South Georgia, and I bet it's a flop.
You know what, man? It's a valid. I think that's
just
valid.
Because it's markets. You build a market, you train a market to be, and I'll be the one to say it, Virginia's a pro mod market, 100%.
Yeah, door slammer centric, no
door
doubt.
Slammer central. Is it pro mod? Is it pro stock? It's everything with doors fits this place, and it has been for the 20 some odd years that this place has been open in my book. But you see that across all kinds of places. Like, Summit is, in my mind, the cornerstone of Summit is 9 Under Fire.
Yeah,
I think it will be that way. But that is so, like, on point that you can take and Wes, you'll attest to this, Pat, talking in the past, but Huntsville Dragway was based off of Orska. And I can remember growing up in that area, and Memphis was the fastest streetcar days, hot rod drag week, fastest streetcar stuff. And that was how you built that facility. Bowling Green was the Hot Rod Reunion, and it fits to this day. You look at Bowling Green, it's like that's where you got to hold the Hot Rod Reunion. You can't hold that at Z.
I think it's like concert venues, man. And sometimes we don't recognize that enough. Like certain bands, like you can't have David Allan Coe play the Sprint Center. You know what I mean? He has to play Billy Bob's, right?
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it's just
thing.
Certain guys sound better in a honky tonk. I mean, you can't have U2 at Billy Bob's in downtown Fort Worth. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't work. So I think that was always, I've talked about this before, that drag racing, especially promoters and racers, at times we struggle with an identity crisis. Like we want to be something we're not. And it's almost like, I think the group there at Summit Motorsports Park, the Bader family, it's like, hey man, we want a taste of that outlaw world, you know, but we're really not outlaw. So we're going to try this. And unfortunately, it's kind of as much as I'm sure it sucked for them, and their main problem was weather. If they had good weather one year, we may not be having this conversation, right?
Yep.
I mean, if they had good weather one year. Yeah.
Yep. We lost testing the year I was there. And I'm like, gosh, what am I going to do?
Yeah, man. I mean, if they would have had one good year of weather, who knows if we're talking right now. But, you know, kind of, what's the word? Wrapping this conversation up about where the event has arrived at now. These events, these outlaw, tried and true, hardcore, door slammer centric events, man, they kind of belong in the Southeast in a lot of cases. You know what I mean? On the East Coast, you're out there in door car racing territory, and I think you're about to have dare I say it, Tyler? I think you got a barn burner on your hands. Looking back, I want to touch on.
Skills.
I don't know if you read through that article, but I'm scrolling through this story that I posted on dragillustrated.com yesterday, kind of a photo documentary of everything that happened at the Shakedown. And I think about Tim Lynch making the first ever 6-second pass on 10.5 Ws. I think about some of the people that came and raced at this deal. Jim Halsey making the first 5-second pass for a nitrous car.
I was just about to say Halsey.
Oh, man. I mean, Vinny Badano. Just all these moments, Mike Moran showing up, Mike Janis there, David Hansen, the twin turbo 57 Chevy. I forgot that Todd Tutterow for a very short period of time raced that twin turbo orange Duster that was initially campaigned by Dennis Radford. Right. Mm-hmm. What a cool moment that was. And really, I think that event, you know, it's funny. Is Proline one of your sponsors? They should be, because the Shakedown, that's a brand that was almost built entirely at E-Town, right? I mean, they went up there every fall to reset every record. It's incredible.
And that was that's how that deal started. There was not really a place where you just went at the end of the year and it was a home run ball. Like that was how that race started, 100%. And I know they wanted an event. They wanted to crown champions. And I mean, everybody wants to do that. But for the racers, that was the last hoorah of the year. You know your motor's coming out after Shakedown. You know what? Give it that extra degree of timing. It'll be okay. Man. And if it hurts, guess what? Okay, it's going in the box anyway. Like it was getting pulled out when we got back home on Sunday night or Monday morning anyways. So that was what made that event so special, was because you either were going to do big wheel stands, it was going to flip over backwards, you were going to blow the tires off, you were going to knock the scoreboards down at E-Town. And you saw every bit of that. And that was what, I mean, let's just be honest, that's what fans want to see. The unexpected, what's going to happen? You don't know. Is it going to knock the tire off, or is it going to fly, or what's it going to do?
There's very little in between at those events. Yeah, man, I agree.
You never knew what was going to happen.
You've got, I believe it's 25,000 to win, big tire, right? I mean, so what kind of participation are we looking at this weekend? I mean, what's the phone traffic been like? I mean, you got some hitters in the house?
Yep, been pretty solid. I know we've got a lot of races going on this time of year, and you got people that are chasing championships at PDRA and Midwest and all that. So it's tough for some teams to say, hey, I'm going to jump out of championship form and go to a one-off race. But at the same time, when you throw 25,000 up to win, you make people do certain things as well. One thing we've done that we've always tried to take the account of is we could have paid 40,000 to win, but we wouldn't have paid as many in the back. So like we're paying 5,000 to the runner up. I think we're paying 2,000 or 2,500 to semis. I mean, we pay back very well. So we try to spread that around to everybody that's that's coming out to support us. And when we've already got, we opened the gates a couple hours ago, and Melanie Salemi, Rodejan Brasado, Randy Weatherford, Marcus Butner, Jay Cox, Tommy will be here. So I mean, Pro Mod's looking stout. Pro Street, we're actually paying $10,000 to win in that, which it's kind of fun to do that here because Outlaw 10-5 was really kind of like burst onto the scene with the Shakedown, in my opinion. Even
I agree.
with quarter mile and eighth mile. I feel like that was really like hey, the 10-5s are cool, and that happened at Shakedown. So we're paying $10,000 to win in Pro Street. Looks like we may be looking at our first 16-car field in that. As well.
That's awesome, man. How exciting is that for you to see that kind of, because there was a lot of people that wrote off 10-5W racing, right? Are you,
Quickly.
I mean, does that kind of prove your point or validate you, Tyler, that, hey, whenever you brought this Pro Street class out, admittedly, there was a lot of people going, are there any cars that even run that anymore?
Yeah.
But clearly there are. You've had a great show all year long. Yeah. I think the class is a home run. I mean, 16-car field at the Shakedown, does that kind of set you up? Do you think that there's growth potential for that brand of drag racing in 23 and beyond?
I do. Really, and I've heard this from a lot of people, and this is probably terrible to say. But like I hear it a lot from the small tire world, from where I came from. I mean, everybody, a lot of people know I created and did a lot of racing radial stuff from 2012 to all the way to now. But those guys really are chasing somewhere to chase a championship, race for solid purses, and be really organized and run a good show. With Pro Street coming over, that gave Pro 275 cars a place to go. Old 10-5 cars that were, Outlaw 10-5 went away at Cecil County and other places. So they were really kind of like, where are we going? So we adapted the kind of the old but new 33 10-5 rule set, and man, it's been really successful. Of course, you want to see everything be like, oh man, we got 20 cars in the second race. It's not obtainable. You're not going to do that. If you have 20 cars in the second race, you're probably going to have 8 in the third because you've messed something up. But it's been a slow growth. We've done a really good job, and I'm proud of the team that we have at PDRA that has put that together and has done a good job keeping the rules tight. And adapting to things that are, hey, we missed this. Let's make a change now. Hey, we've missed this. Let's make a change now, to really not let the class get away from us. Jason Ruckert and I have done that with LDR for the last 7 or 8 years, and that class has really stayed tight in comparison to a Pro 275 or a Radio versus the World that, you see that record number drop a tenth, 2 tenths over a couple of years. LDR, we were looking at, I think the first record we ever had was 412, 411, and now the record's still like a 395, and that's 7 over the span of 8, maybe even 9 years now.
Wow.
So, to see that comparison, now we bring that into the slick tire world with the PDRA, with Shakedown, with everything we're doing at Virginia. I really see that being something that's successful. I feel like racers will look at that and go, they care about the longevity. They don't care about what's happening now. They don't care about the scoreboard getting burned to the ground. We've all been fast. And I said this about track prep the other day. We all get in that, but I want the record in my place. Look, record's going to get broke next week. Doesn't really matter. Engine builder is going to come up with something better, Pro Charger or Precision Turbo, or somebody's going to build a bigger blower or a better turbo or a better something. Brandon Schweitzer's going to build a better nitrous solenoid. Somebody's always going to do something better when it comes to performance. 100%, without a doubt, records are made to be broken. We've all said that. Guinness is not in business to print one book and be done. Let's be honest. But to give somebody a longevity class, a very close class across the board, we've seen Pro Charger win this year. We've seen Roots Blower win. We've seen Twin Turbo win. Small block twin turbo's been fast, but hasn't got a win yet. Screw blower should have won the last race, but got beat on a hole shot. So we really have yet to see a nitrous car come in, but there's been a couple that have been talking that, hey, I'm on the way. I'm out of parts, or I'm work or something. There's guys that are right on that edge of, hey, I'm ready to make the jump, but probably not this year. And
I'm going to ask you to help us introduce our next guest. But before I do, Tyler, and I'm not trying to set anything on fire here, but do you think the seasonality of being able to race on a slick year round throughout the season, no matter the conditions, because I think we all, perhaps no one in this conversation more so than you loves radial tire racing. I mean, more so. You're a huge fan of this type of racing, but let's be honest, we have seen that it is not something that can be consistently contested year round, especially in the heat of summer. So I wonder here, while we're early in September, I think this still qualifies as early in September. It's hot out, right? We're going to have a lot of direct sunlight, a lot of warm days. It's tough. Do you think racers are kind of gravitating towards the fact that they can run the car on slicks all year?
As bad as I hate to say it, and racers are a creature of habit, let's just be honest. Hey, I had this tune-up in the semis last race I was in. I'm going to roll that thing out of the trailer with the same tune-up. It's not going to work. Like, we don't want to move weights. We don't want to change the travel. We don't want to adjust the shocks. We don't want to change the tune-up. We don't want to push the lockup out. We don't want to change anything to slow down. Why would you want to do that? But we have that, and that mindset has gotten into the radial world so bad, and that's the worst part of it. Like when we were racing our car in Ultra Street, I can remember coming off the trailer with, we made 4% weight swings because of the racetrack just not being there yet. That's not anybody's fault. That's not a track prep guy's fault. That's not traffic fault. It's just the nature of the beast. And that mindset in small tire racing is gone. I don't know why, because to me, that was the fun part. Hey, I have to make my car go down this racetrack. We did it with Daniel Ferris's car for a ton of years. We did it with mine. Daniel's had 14 cars, but we were never scared to move anything. And now it's like, people are like, I have this setup that works, and I was fast with this setup, so I don't want to change it. But that's not the fun part anymore. And to be able to put slicks on, you don't have to make those changes as much, because that same tune-up that worked at 85 degrees may still work at 90 if you just push the lockup out or you stretch the timing curve down a little bit more. You don't have to make as much of a swing on the chassis, where on a radial car you do. And I think that's attractive to a lot to and being able to race. I
can't imagine it's not. And that's what's tough is I remember it wasn't that long ago that I had, people in my ears saying before long, every car in drag racing is going to be on a radial. And I just kept going, I don't know, man. You got a whole lot of guys that don't want to move things around. You know what I mean? And they need a fairly wide window to operate in, especially if you're running at some NHRA national event. You don't know who you're running behind or what time of day you're running, 5 a.m. or 10 o'clock at night or behind top fuel. You don't know. So you need a little bit wider of a window. Tyler, I need your help, buddy, and I really appreciate your time. Real quick, I believe you probably grew up next door to this old boy, right?
Yeah, he's a good fella, man.
You guys may be next door neighbors. Would you help me introduce our next guest, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Clay Millican? What do you know about this old boy?
So Clay, I'll be the one to say it. I was 11 or 12 years old. I was at a bracket race in Jackson, Tennessee. And I looked up. My dad was bracket racing. We had our '69 Camaro there, and I looked up and I looked at my dad and I said, "Dad, that's Clay Millican. Why is Top Fuel Clay Millican at Jackson Dragway?" And Clay walked over, never missed a beat, walked up, introduced himself, and we hung out and talked. And I've been close friends with Clay ever since that day. Man, it's freaking awesome to have him on board. I hate we're not going to get to see it at Virginia this year or next year going forward, but I can tell you I'm going to have to come out and come be on the crew for one weekend, because I miss my boy Clay and getting to hang out with you all the time.
Well, I'll tell you what I always think about Tyler is this kid running around with a camera around his neck that was about the same size he was and taking photos of everything. If there's ever been a kid eat up with drag racing, it is definitely Tyler, and you can just continue to move forward with everything you do. I mean, think about it, from Jackson, Tennessee to around the world, track prepping, drag racing. I mean, events. You're one of my heroes, buddy. I don't care if you are,
same here,
a kid, but you're still a bad
Hey,
dude.
I just turned 30. Give me a break. Can I get past the kid thing?
Are you 30?
I turned 30 on September 4th.
Man,
Finally.
it's over now. It's
over.
all no, I'm just joking. Clay, real quick, before we let Tyler go, do you guys ever take a step back and, Clay, you and I found we bumped into one another 8,000 miles from home in Saudi Arabia a couple of years ago. Do you guys ever do what I do and pinch yourself? Because I think at times drag racing, this whole community, we feel small. You know what I mean? Like, it's easy to feel like we're not Formula One, we're not NASCAR, blah, blah, blah. But man, the sport of drag racing has taken the three of us around the world. We earn a living going to drag
racing. I just got a phone call yesterday to go back to Kuwait over the winter. So it's like, I did it today. I'm like, this can't be real. Like, I just a real old country boy redneck from Bells, Tennessee. Like, what is this? But it's so cool. And we do it all the time of just saying, man, we're all so blessed to get the chances that we do and to have the opportunities that we all do. I mean, Clay, with the new team owner, I'm sure that's going to be a huge deal going forward for his program. And Wes, all your stuff you're doing at Drag Illustrated, and me with Virginia and PDRA, with the Franklin family. Like, we're all blessed to get to do what we love. Man, we all could be in a factory or at McDonald's flipping burgers. Like, I mean, we have the best job in the world, even though some days people don't think that.
I can tell y'all this. There are times where I wake up and it is an absolute nightmare of dreaming of pulling orders at the Kroger Food Warehouse, because I did that for 11 years. I have never once woke up from a dream going, oh man, I got to go drive a Top Fuel car.
Yes.
Yeah. Dang it. You know? Yeah. Oh, no, it's an incredible thing, man. And sometimes I just want to make sure that people are hearing that, because I know there's some 15, 16-year-old kid spraying water in a water box the same way I did, sunburnt, right? Miserable, haven't had anything to eat but like 6 Cokes and some chicken strips from the concession stand, wondering if this is worth it. And I'm here to tell you it is, man, because the sport of drag racing, this is a really unique community of people. You never know who you're going to bump into. It may be Rick Ware, right? A guy that's a NASCAR team owner. It may be Tommy Franklin, right? A very successful businessman that owns a drag strip. You just never know who you're going to encounter at the racetrack and how it can impact your future. So, Tyler, I think I'll speak for Clay and I, we're very, very proud of you, young man. And we wish you nothing but the best this weekend at the Shakedown Nationals. Give us the details of the race before we cut you loose, all right? Like dates, location, times, days, classes, etc.
Dates is pretty obvious. It's this weekend.
Right, yeah.
If nobody's figured that out until now, it's this weekend.
Friday, Saturday,
we're
Sunday.
Parking right now. Testing starts tomorrow at 11. Q1 tomorrow at 6 p.m. for all our heads-up classes. Friday qualifying. Saturday we go racing. Pro Mod, Pro Street, LDR, X275, Ultra Street, NPC Real Street. We got a packed house. We'll put on some of the best bracket racing too. We got a Super 64 shootout that if Tommy will get out of the way and let me slide in a dragster, I may have to see if I remember how to do it.
Well, hey, man, be careful. Good luck. We'll be thinking of you. We'll be
guys.
Watching. And keep us posted, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, Tyler Crossnoe. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks guys.
Tyler.
All right, guys. Clay, thank you so much for joining us, buddy. Real quick here, JT, let me pay some bills real quick before we dive into this deep conversation with whom I believe to be a living legend here in drag racing, Clay Millican. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take a minute to remind you all that the Wes Buck Show is brought to you by way of our friends at Redline Synthetic Oils. Redline has a reputation with racers and hardcore enthusiasts for creating products that perform and protect better than any on the market, and they've been doing it since 1979, baby. Whether it's your race car, your tow rig, your motorcycle, or your lawnmower, when you think about lubricants, you need to think about Redline. For more information, log on to redlineoil.com. We're about 10 minutes behind schedule, Clay. I apologize. 16 minutes behind schedule. Oh, my goodness, I'm blushing. What's going on, man? Will you take us through this insanity that is... I got to be honest, I was blindsided by this deal. I told you that yesterday, that I had no idea this was coming down the pike. I opened my eyes one moment, and we've got a new team owner in drag racing, and this is a big domino to fall. Rick Ware, a very established name and commodity in NASCAR racing, IMSA, I believe the Supercross, motocross world as well, diving into Top Fuel. Can you kind of tell us the story?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that Rick Ware has been wanting to go drag racing for a while now. I mean, if you think back to, I think it was Charlotte last year, our car was flat black. Of course, it had Parts Plus on it, but we had Nurtec on the side of the car, which is one of Rick's, major partners in the NASCAR side of things and the IndyCar. And at that point, him and Doug were actually talking about, him coming in, being part of our team, and it just didn't work out. Well, fast forward to Topeka this year. Doug and I were sitting on the back of the tow vehicle talking, and, you know, it kind of came up again. You know, what about what Rick Ware's trying to do? You know, he's already buying equipment. He's got parts and pieces already on order. And man, this thing literally happened from start to finish in 5 or 6 days. And part of the reason how that happened so fast was because these conversations had taken place a year ago. And so, you know, some of the paperwork, that sort of thing was already kind of done. And man, it has moved in a hurry, you know, but Rick was already you know, he was full steam ahead. You know, he's already got trucks and trailers sitting there, and he's got, you know, a brand new car being built at Schumacher's. He's got parts and pieces coming in. Well, he wanted to be out there this year. You know, he wanted to have his, you know, all of his sponsors from the NASCAR and IndyCar and IMSA car world in drag racing. And one of the things that was so exciting to me about this, and I've been really fired up about it, is with all those things that Rick Ware Racing has going, his biggest selling point to me to say, yes, I want to be a part of this, was drag racing is going to be one of the cornerstones of our entire operation. And a big part of that is because of what we all take for granted, and that is the opportunities for the fans to be right there. The guy obviously loves NASCAR. So do I. I mean, my son's name is Cale, after Cale Yarborough. But once the race starts, the fans are in the grandstands, and that's it. There is no more interaction. You know, there's none of that's happening. And that's what makes drag racing so awesome. And it also, and this is me saying this, it is also what makes it so suited for the world today. We all want instant results. You were talking UFC fighting earlier. Drag racing is exactly like a fist fight. There's a winner and loser, and it really happens quickly. And that's what we have with drag racing. And then we have these awesome hospitality opportunities, and we know it, we love it, but it's pretty cool to me to have somebody from the NASCAR, IndyCar world to go, man, I got to be there. That's where, you know, we can grow, and we can continue to grow our company, and we can continue to make our sponsors more appreciate what we're doing out here, because the opportunities in drag racing are so much better for that, you know. And of course, I'm preaching to the choir here to everybody watching, you know, the Wes Buck show. We know that.
But don't you, I mean, for me, it's a touch validating, right? Like, it makes me want to take a step back and be like, I knew we weren't stupid. You know what I mean? Like, I knew we were right, because I agree, right? I look at these other sports and I think about, you nailed it, man. I think about the ever shortening attention span of, you know, not only the average American consumer, but consumers around the world. You know, drag racing plays right into the hand of that, right? We get this stuff sorted out quickly, right? We don't need to spend 2, 3, 4, 5 hours to figure out who's who, right? Yeah. We can do it right now. You know, give us about a quarter mile of concrete in 5 seconds and we'll figure out who's who. And it seems like we have not been, I think our sport should be, I don't mean to, I'm very content and very happy with where our sport is. I'm proud and I'm grateful, all these things. But I do think there's more out there for us, Clay. I really do. I think there's more out there for guys like you. I think about guys, someone like you, Clay, that's an incredible ambassador for the sport of drag racing, clean cut, good looking, well spoken, all these things. And I wonder, like, this cat should be flying to the races on a private jet. This guy should be sponsored by Nabisco or whatever. I mean, he should have whatever he wants. And, you know, and I'm not going to let go of that, because I think that chip on my shoulder kind of makes me me. But I have thought at times, like, man, if we could get some of these guys from these other walks of their motorsports life, if we could get them over here, maybe they could see it. And that's just very validating to me personally, to hear that Rick Ware, you know, a guy who has made a business out of being in the NASCAR space, not necessarily going out and winning every championship, but he's turned it into a business by being there. Yeah. Seeing him over here, and then hearing you say that drag racing is going to be a bedrock piece of his operation moving forward. I mean, do you feel that way? I mean, are you walking around with your chest puffed out, man? I mean, you should be excited.
Oh, I mean, of course, you know, I mean, it is, you know, I've always touted this, and I'm still going to, you know, somewhat, because I've never been part of the factory teams. Me and you've had this conversation on this very show. You know, I've always been part of a little team, you know, and I think this opportunity is huge. Are we still going to be a single car team? Yes, we are, but this guy had bought a 17,000 square foot building in Mooresville. He's already, got in place all of these NASCAR connections that are going to work with our team, which is crazy to me. I mean, because we're not going to necessarily have to go out, and ship things off and do this, that, and other. There's so much equipment and so many things available in that Mooresville area, the whole Charlotte area. I mean, we don't have to have a CNC shop sitting in there because there's one right
There's
down
one
the
next
street.
door.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I hope I'm not talking out of turn here, but I heard a rumor this morning, okay, that Rick maybe personally showed up at that shop in Mooresville. What was this? Maybe the week of Indy with like a bunch of brand new parts.
He
like
showed up
Santa Claus.
He showed up at Indy, literally at the racetrack. I mean,
hey, we're not running anything that's got runs on it. New rods, new cranks, new pistons, new everything.
Absolutely crazy. And I mean, we go to the races with 2 tractor trailer rigs, and they get mad at me, but I call our team the kids because they're kids to me. And they come to me and they're all giddy, every department's got new parts and pieces, and they're like, we don't have nowhere to put all this stuff. What are we going to do with it? And
that's so awesome.
So I had drove, I drive to a lot of the races. And so if anybody had known to go break into the stacker trailer behind my motorhome, they could have started a Top Fuel operation because it was slam jam full of parts and pieces the whole Indy week, which is great, and it's just been amazing that this guy was so ready to jump in that he had already started doing all of this, and the opportunity, him and Doug had a conversation, like they started at Topeka, and boom, it moved that quick. And, the trucks and trailers left Indy, they went to Mooresville, and of course, I mean, they have this massive shop that's now, got to be kind of set up for drag racing. They do things different in the NASCAR world, but Rick's like, whatever we got to do, this shop doesn't house his NASCAR team. It has the IMSA team and the Top Fuel team, and his office is there. It's not at the NASCAR shop. So that he moved his office to this building because this is how excited he is about it. I mean, the guy's coming to Reading this weekend for Friday. He's literally going to hop on a plane Saturday because he's got to be at Bristol. You may have heard of the NASCAR race in Bristol. It's kind of a big deal. So
I've heard it a couple times.
But he's coming Friday just to watch qualifying Friday. And, I'm pumped up about it. Everybody on the team is pumped up about it. It's a great opportunity. And I got to say this, we got a lot of people watching. I'm looking at my phone over here. Doug Stringer is still part of this. Doug's still working with the team. I'm still talking to him every day.
I saw him in Indy. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been a very smooth, seamless thing for such a big transformation, and we still got to move stuff from the shop in Illinois. So it's got to get there. And there's so many things that's going to happen, like the trucks and trailers that he bought, and those we're going to move into the off season. We got a car that's running really, really good right now, and we didn't want to disrupt that. Now, adding parts and pieces, that's not a disruption. That's a plus, and man, the whole thing is just unbelievably exciting, and it's fun learning, how they operate versus how we operate, the things that they do that we probably should be doing. And I think there's probably some things we do that they are like, man, we should be doing that over, whether it be the IndyCar or or whatever, but we get these on, and it's nice to be part of a gigantic world. And I don't mean just be a part of it. I mean, be right in the middle of it, with a guy that.
Has there been anything that jumps out? And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but that was one of the questions I had kind of in the back of my head going, Clay's an observative guy. He's paying attention. Like, do you look at that IMSA program and go, oh, we should be doing that? Or do you look at the IndyCar deal and go, oh, there may be some opportunity there? Has there been, I know it's just a couple of weeks old, but have there been anything that you've been able to pick out from these other racing racing operations that you want to apply to your own program?
Well, I got to be honest, it's been so overwhelming. There hasn't been any one thing that makes me go, wow, we got to do that, but one of the things that I'm really interested in that I know that they do differently, is some of the hospitality stuff on the IMSA side of things. that's such a big part of what we do. And our partners, Parks Plus has been with me for 12 years now. And they continue to race with us because of hospitality. So for me, I'm excited to look and see how they do what they're doing that maybe we should be doing. And I think all of it is going to take a little bit of time, because the last 2 weeks has been nonstop. How do we integrate into what we're doing and bring in all these parts and pieces that he showed up with, and, start to move to Mooresville. So to answer your question, nothing yet, but I know it's coming.
For sure. I mean, and the reason I'm looking around here, and I wanted to get my facts straight. I mean, you qualified 5th with a 370 with a 7 at the U.S. Nationals amidst the quickest field in the history of drag racing. And it begs the question, is that a direct reflection of all brand new parts and pieces, all brand new, a new approach? I mean, because that was an impressive performance. To be in the top half of that particular field is doing something out here, Clay Millican.
Well, it certainly doesn't hurt. I mean, did Jimbo go in there and just throw the kitchen sink at it? No, because we know that don't necessarily work when you haven't been throwing the kitchen sink at it. But what it does is it frees up your mind a little bit to go, okay, if we heard it, we're okay. We got another one in the trailer. That frees up your thinking a little bit. And to be honest, same with me driving the car a little bit.
That's what I was going to ask next.
And I got to back up. You talked about that 370. I got a new YouTube video be coming out tomorrow, kind of recapping our last 5 races. Our car, and this is before all the new parts showed up. Actually, it includes Indy in this video that's coming out. But our last 5 races, our car has been beaten first round 5 races in a row. And if you add them all up, 0.1012. 5 first round losses by a tenth of the second total. And I'm telling you right now, and this is kind of getting off subject a little bit, but if you think NHRA Top Fuel Racing is not the best it's ever been right now, you would be incorrect. And that's, I talk about it in this YouTube video that's coming out tomorrow.
You would be incorrect.
You would be incorrect. Think about that. 5 first round losses, no tire smokers, no hole shots, no nothing. 5 races by a tenth. I lost one to Sean Langdon at Topeka by 0.0005. I lost first round at Indy by 0.007. So that's 2 races. That's 100 and or
it's insane. Yeah. I mean, there's a comment here that says NHRA is the most competitive it's ever been, and I would support that. I mean, I look at it from really your category, the top down. Top Fuel, Funny Car is bonkers. Pro Stock is bonkers right now. It's weird because you got to be careful, because if I am like a fool, I have all of our notifications turned on the Drag Illustrated Facebook page. So every time I get called a name or whatever, it pops up on here, right? And it's crazy how people want to. It's like they're talking about the NHRA from like 2008 or something. They're not paying attention, in my particular opinion, because this is as nasty as it's ever been. And I don't know how you can be anything other than excited about it. I mean, the countdown, I posted a quote card on social earlier that Tony Schumacher identified that there's 12 cars in the Top Fuel countdown. I don't know that you can count any of them out. I mean, right here and now, Clay Millican squeaks into this deal. We could be talking to you in a couple of weeks where you're going, hey man, we got a shot.
I mean, talking about them 5 first round losses, I'll just keep telling everybody that'll listen. Sooner or later, when that first win light comes on, first round, I say everybody's in trouble, because you can't keep losing that many close races and it not go the other way. It's the greatest it's ever been right now. And I know we're going to see, I missed the quarter mile, I missed that, and I missed, whatever. This is as hardball of drag racing there's ever been. Every aspect of every part of the race car is now being looked at, from reaction times to the speed to the elapsed time to the superchargers, you name it. It's all getting looked at, because there ain't no one powerhouse anymore. I mean, Steve Torrance obviously has been the king, and they're not knocking them off left and right. They've won one this year. Obviously Brittany's car has been, the most dominant, but nobody has just took and run away with this thing. I mean, here I am. I think I'm tied with Austin Prock, and we're 11-12, and we're talking about a John Force car is 12th in points or whatever. I got to admit, I'm not the most stat guy. I don't sit there and focus it.
I'm not either.
I laugh at people all the time. They come ask me, where are you qualified at? I'm like, I don't know. Who you racing
we're in.
around? I don't know, and now it's even kind of funnier. My normal line to that is it really doesn't matter because I can't give them the old bump and run like in the NASCAR world, which now that kind of ties into being part of a NASCAR team. But I am the guy that literally, I take it where we're at right now. What do we got to do? Yes, I ask if we're not qualified, but if we go out and run 370 like we did at Indy, I'm over that. Okay, what are we doing for the next run? But drag racing is absolutely incredible. I think it's on an upward trajectory. Me and you, I know are bad about this. Like we read comments and we get thousands of good ones, but we let the one bad one stick in our head, and it's like, that guy says we should be quarter mile racing. Well, or whatever it is, It doesn't matter what it is. I mean,
we're not.
We're not.
Yeah. I mean, it is. And you know what? You're 100% right, because when I look at it right now, there's more energy and enthusiasm around NHRA drag racing than I've seen in a long time. I mean, the storylines are there. We've got some of the old guard, so to speak, like some of the usual suspects, but we also have some fresh faces, and that goes in every category. We've got some, independent teams that are forces to be reckoned with. We've got some multi-car operations that are still doing what they do. It's an exciting time to be a part of drag racing. And it's like in Top Fuel, I saw somebody boo-hooing about the countdown format. To be honest, it has really worked out. I mean, if you look at it from 30,000 feet and you really try to look at the lay of the land and go, man, this deal, 69, almost 70% of the time, the points leader ends up winning the deal. So it's not like all those traditionalists that want it to be an ongoing points standings. Hey, that's typically what happens. But it also has given us a really exciting into the year. And I don't know that I've ever been more excited about the countdown as like a function. Like this 6-race series, it seems like people start to tune in. And like if I'm judging by Drag Illustrated's DMs or comments, Vegas, Pomona, people are locked in. Well, I'm telling you what, man, Kenny Koretsky should be excited because I think everybody's pretty fired up for Maple Grove this weekend. Can you tell us, like, do you have any sort of strat? I mean, obviously it's one round at a time and race whoever's in the other lane. I know those things, but kind of take us through your guys' approach. Do you feel like the opportunity, you had a big week, ran well, got some momentum, maybe some mojo headed in the right direction? Do you feel like we got to make a big move in Maple Grove if we're going to do this deal?
Oh, 100%. I mean, me and Donna have been wearing out the old weather app, to see what the weather's going to look like. I mean, and the weather looks good, which means it's going to be fast. And we always know that, Reading is a good racetrack that you can go really, really fast at. Actually was on the phone with Jimmo last night, and we're talking, what do we got to do to run 360s? Because we know that's what it's going to take. And we need to start turning on those win lights. It makes me kind of go back. And again, I'm a horrible statistician, especially when it ain't even me. But I think about, I believe it was Robert Hyde a few years ago, that won, I don't know how many races in a row and went from like 8th place in points to the championship.
10th, I think. Yeah.
10th or whatever it was. Yeah. And so, those are exactly what we're thinking about. The countdown is definitely changed, everything. And of course that kind of come from the NASCAR world, with their playoff system, and it does make it exciting. I mean, I knew, going into Indy, like, hey, I'm not going to leave here in first place. But now with the reset, it's like the whole season starts over with. And I know that I have the opportunity, if we go out and turn win lights on, and we obviously can't slip up anywhere. If you're coming from where we're at, you've got to turn on win lights at every race that there is left for the rest of the year. And man, it's exciting. And it's just doubly exciting for us because we got so many new things going, with Rick Ware Racing coming in here. And like you said, kind of being Santa Claus, he's filling up the trailer with parts and pieces so that we know we can go out there and get after it. And I know our car is capable. I mean, the thing went 70 at Indy. We go 72 first round, and it's all there for the taking, and the countdown is awesome. And I will say that there was a time, when I was racing IHRA and cleaning house over there, I probably would have been like Steve Torrance was, and like, man, this ain't right. I done worked so hard to build this points lead, and it all gets taken away. But it makes it more exciting for the fans because it's a clean slate. We're going to finish the season up, and it's all wide open for everybody out there. Those opportunities are there, and I'm looking forward to taking my share of them.
I'm glad to hear you say that, and I'm glad to hear you reference the fans, because I do think that it seems like for whatever reason, John Force the last couple of weeks has been on a celebrate the fans tirade. Every time I hear him quoted, it's something about the fans. But I thought, you know what? That probably can't be said enough, right? Because no matter how it affects we racers, we on this side of the fence, they're the ones that matter, right? And if it's not exciting and interesting for them, it's all for nothing. And so it's like, yeah, you kind of got to table those complaints, because this has been working. It has been a successful formula. We've seen the championship come down to the final race, oftentimes the final couple of rounds of the final race of the season, year after year after year. And how can you complain about that? I mean, I think it's working out. It's paying dues, man.
Oh, I mean, I agree. The fans are 100% everything. It's the reason that I try to stay so active on social media. I try to let everybody know what's going on. It's the very reason why we show so many things that's happening in our pit area, through the YouTube channel and everywhere else we can do it, because I appreciate that these folks, especially with how much fuel costs now and everything else costs, they are coming to the races to watch us. Why be the guy that or girl that's like turns your head away from them people? I mean, without them, we ain't doing nothing. And again, I just told you, I have nightmares about going back to the Kroger Food Warehouse, pulling orders. I want to keep doing this, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that people enjoy it and have fun and pay attention to what we're doing. And yes, I get out of the car and smile after a loss. Am I happy? Absolutely not. But I'm still driving a car, that win, lose, or draw. I remember being that kid standing on the other side of the ropes going, man, how cool is this? And now I'm that guy, so you should appreciate it. Why do you smile all the time? I get asked that a lot. Everybody should, because you just can't take anything for granted. Enjoy it while you got it, and just absolutely have a blast with it. And trust me, there can be things worse in your life than losing first round. And, I've lived it, and I know it, and I'm just going to keep on doing what I do, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability every time I get the opportunity to do it. I'm going to try to make a fan happy. I'm going to try to, make the car go faster, and I'm going to try to, make sure that I can keep doing this for a long time.
I like to say drag racing is something that we get to do, and it's absolutely a blessing. And I got to tell you one last thing here before we let you go. And I surely appreciate your candor and your time this afternoon, Clay. You're always so gracious with your time. I got the rare opportunity to climb into a Top Fuel car at the NHRA US Nationals. As I told you yesterday, I was only there on Friday, and I climbed, and it was like an epiphany moment for me. Because
that, actually,
I mean, I've been in a lot of race cars or whatever. But I'm telling you, that first experience of being in a car like that, I was telling this to Brett Kepner over the weekend. It changed me. I'm the ultimate pro mod door slammer guy, right? It's no secret. And I still am. However, sitting in that car, having it idle so violently, like it's violent. It's so violent at idle. I thought it was going to come off the Pro Jacks. You know what I mean? Like it's so just at idle. And whenever I pushed that lever to turn on the second fuel pump, and it starts breathing heavy, how they do, I go, I get it. Like I totally get it. I totally get it. Yeah. I whacked the throttle, didn't hold it down. Hand to God, I will hold it down before it's all said and done. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But I'm telling you, that experience, can you take us through that? Do you remember the first time you ever stomped on the loud pedal of a fuel car?
I absolutely do. So I got my license with Paul Smith, and we were planning on actually getting my license at Richmond. Just having Tyler on here is kind of funny, but it rained on the Monday that we were going to do it. But we started the car up. So for me, that was the first time I sit in one. And what you experienced is 100% correct. When you're sitting in that thing and it's running and you're not touching anything, like you're just sitting there, it is an absolute monster. You can tell through every part of your body that this thing is unbelievably powerful. Now, fast forward to West Palm Beach. That's where I ended up driving the car for the first time. And I've never claimed to be a tough guy. I never will. But when I started to put my helmet on, to know I'm going to go stomp on the loud pedal of a, whatever they were back then, 8,000 horsepower top fuel car, I thought I was going to throw up. And this was something that I had dreamed about doing my entire life. That's all I've ever thought about is, man, I want to drive one of these cars. But for the briefest moment, I was like, man, I'm fixing to throw up right here. But I get in the car, and I went through everything that Paul Smith and Mike Smith and John Smith told me to do, what to expect. And Paul had told me, he's like, hit the throttle. If you can, drive it, 300 feet or whatever the case is. So I do everything, stomp on the loud pedal. I go to 330 feet, shut it off. And I was like, wow, there is nothing I've ever done that comes close to what that felt like. But at the same time, I got this feeling of like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I can do this. And man, I've been on a mission ever since then. And I can tell you that I just said I'm horrible with stats, but I got my top fuel license May 10th, 1998. And all I've ever done since then is do my dangdest to figure out how to keep being out here and keep doing this, because that is something that there is no waste. I've done all kinds of stuff. We talked about the opportunities that drag racing have gave us. Drag racing has gave me the opportunity to do a lot of amazing things, but nothing compares to a top fuel dragster.
I'm like I said, I sat in the thing at Idle, and just the whole experience, and it really is the violence of it, right? Yeah. I mean, it's just a violent happening. And then it's also the synergy that's required from all these people, because the first thing I did when I got out of the car after it was over, I was kind of humbled by all these people that are working on it. You know what I mean? Like, because I immediately thought, all right, this son of a gun doesn't even crank up if it's not for these guys. Because I immediately thanked to Scott Palmer, of course, because he's the one who made that happen. But I look at these crew guys, and it's a real humbling moment, because you know how many people have their hands in this thing, and how much attention to detail there is, the way, the order of events. That's the thing that I think I found so interesting, because talking through the warm-up process with Scott Palmer initially, it was so funny. He goes, once you really hear it idling good, you know what I mean? And he goes, you'll know. And I just think, okay, great, I'll know. And he goes, give her a one alligator and whack the throttle. And I just thought, like, it's just so funny, the sequence of events, and how complicated it really, because it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, right? On the outside looking in, you sat in a car while it was idling, but just the whole sequence of events. And then I think about people such as yourselves that have been able to standardize this process, repeat it consistently thousands of times in a row, despite whether there's 6 people in the stands or 60,000 people in the stands, despite whether it's live on TV or it's tape delayed. And it really just enhanced my appreciation for, and I'm not that yourself or Matt Hagan aren't badasses, but it really enhanced my appreciation for when I think about like Brittany Force doing that, you know what I mean? Or Alexis DeJoria. I'm going, I tip my cap to him. I tip my cap to all of y'all, because just hitting the throttle in the water seems like it would be something that you have to think about.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's funny, talking about the process, and there's 2 things I want to bring up. One is, you mentioned all those people that it takes to make those cars operate. Go out and freaking red light, go out and lose on the whole shot and have to pull back in that pit area and look at all those people that had worked as hard as they could possibly work to put you in a situation to go out there and do your job and you mess it up. You know, I mean, boy, it's tough. But the second part of that is you got a little bit of an idea. There's a lot more going on in the car that a driver has to do than it appears from the outside. A few months ago, I posted a video of how to drive a top fuel dragster. It's been watched by over 200,000 people. And it continually is at the top of the charts on my YouTube analytics because people want to know, you know, I mean, we're in there, we got these body panels and I mean, you know, it has to be that way. But, you know, if you kind of peel back that onion a little bit and it's like, it's a little more going on in here than what you think, you know, yes, we're drag racing. We're trying to go straight down a racetrack, but there's a lot more happening to go that fast in that short amount of time than anybody really realizes. And I think that's why so many people, you know, if they get the opportunity you do, it's like, wow, this is a lot happening here.
I mean, and how about a shout out to like everybody that's involved in, you know, because all these crew guys, you know, it's like the lineman on a football team, you know, the quarterback gets all the praise and the crew chief, maybe the offensive coordinator or the head coach. But if it's not for those guys that are in the trenches, because I think about you can go up there and do your job perfectly well. But if the guy who's checking the air in the tires, you know, has a gauge that's not calibrated, you know what I mean, correctly or whatever, or puts 27 pounds of air in the tires, no matter what anybody else did, no matter what any super tuner did, no matter what the greatest driver of the history of the world did, it's all for naught, you know. And there's so many ways to screw this deal up, and especially when you're dealing with nitromethane, you know, because that was another thing that, like, running through everything with Rick and Scott's team there, you know, just the safety conscientiousness that exists, that it's like, hey, what we're doing is really dangerous and we have to do this the right way. It's an incredible thing, man. And I appreciate you highlighting that because that's always something that's heavy on my heart. I know I see a driver heartbroken, not because he lost typically, but because he let his guys down.
Oh,
and
100%.
Gals, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, it is way worse. I mean, you know, I beat myself up when I would do something wrong or whatever, but man, it's just heartbreaking to pull back in there and get out. And it's like, man, I'm sorry, you know, whatever, but it's part of the game. You know, when you're racing at the level, we've been talking about how competitive it is, you know, sometimes you make a mistake, you know, sometimes you stomp on that loud pedal and the tree wasn't on, you know, I mean, that's just part of it, you know, it does happen, but man, there is just nothing like it, you know, the adrenaline rush of doing it. And, you know, I've worked with a couple doctors for a few years now that have monitored what happens to me in the car. And it's been amazing. I don't understand some of the stuff they have discovered, you know, and this was while they were in college. They're now both doctors, but my heart rate is actually at its highest during the burnout, and it comes down for the run, you know, and I found that really, really interesting, you know, that I don't know if, you know, it's like, yes, burnouts are fun, or it's like, okay, it started its run and now it's time to go.
And you settle into it. Yeah.
Yeah. But man, I hope you get the opportunity because you will never be the same. And, you know, Rick Ware has been asking me 9,000 questions, you know, and he's driven NASCAR. He's driven, you know, he's done all that stuff. And he's like, man, what do you think? You know, and I'm like, we got to get you in a bracket car. We got to get you through the staging process. But the dude's been 200 at Daytona. You need to go 300. You got to find out what this feels like, because I wish everybody got the opportunity. You know, I wish everybody could go take a ride with Larry Dixon. Not everybody may want to drive one of these things, but just to experience the acceleration is unbelievable. And you're talking to a guy that's rode with the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds. And even that did not compare to the instant right now, you know, put you in the back of the seat kind of thing. You know,
well, and thank God for storytellers such as yourself, man, because you're right. So few people, there are a whole lot of people that don't even want to do it, have no desire, but it's the cold hard facts is that most people won't. Even if they wanted to, most people won't. So we're reliant on people such as yourself, Clay, to be great storytellers and wax poetic about that experience. Man, thank you so much for the time here today, brother. I appreciate it a lot. We're looking forward to seeing you shake things up this weekend at the Maple Grove Raceway, the house that Kenny and Kyle Koretsky are in the process of rebuilding. Man, be safe out there this weekend. Clay, thank you so much for the time, buddy.
Guys, I appreciate it. As always, this is always a lot of fun. We always run long. We always talk too much, but there's
okay.
two people that can talk drag racing forever. It's the two guys you see on the screen right here. Wes, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you, buddy. Tell Donna hi and be careful driving, all right?
You bet. Thank y'all.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
All right, guys, let's pay some bills here real quick. I want to remind you guys that each and every episode of the Wes Buck Show is made possible by way of our friends at Stroud Safety. Stroud Safety is known for their top quality racing safety equipment, from drag chutes and seatbelts to fire suits, gloves, and blankets, all 100% made in America. Log on to StroudSafety.com. Make sure you tell them we sent you. Mike, JT, are you guys still with me, or did I lose you somewhere along the way? Oh, there's T. There's Michael.
Here,
all right, what's going on,
We took
guys?
a little nap. We took a little
Did
nap.
you?
No, just kidding. No, I mean, it was great. Those are great guests. Clay, two Fodies, friends of DI. Tyler,
Thank you.
Tyler and Clay. Man, it's hard to beat. Clay had some emotion there, and just how genuine he is there. And there are so many people that it can't be a coincidence that we've heard the story. Man, my first racer that I ever met was Clay Millican. The first time I ever went to a drag race, Clay Millican signed my hat or whatever it was. And that he's still out there doing it.
I don't think we would have our editor-in-chief at Drag Illustrated, Nate Van
Nate's a
Wagner,
good
without
example
Clay
of it.
Millican, man. I mean, Clay made an impression on him when I think he was 12 years old, and now he's making his living.
Tyler just told a similar story. So it can't be a coincidence.
And there were several in the comments saying that same story. They had a similar story.
It's pretty incredible,
and
man. Really
I got me a new neighbor here in Mooresville. I'm gonna go check out Rick Ware Racing.
You should go over there, man.
Me and Clay need to go to lunch as long as he's buying.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm sure he's got a brand new NASCAR team motor, man. They're flying around on private jets. They're buying dinner. They'll probably take you to that place that Brett goes to all the time, Underwood. What's it called?
Red Rocks.
Red Rocks, right? That's the spot.
Brett's name is on the menu.
It's the funniest thing.
Is it really?
It really is. Yeah.
The Brett Underwood New York Strip, I believe it is.
I think it's awesome, man. All right. Well, hey, we've got a little bit of time here left. I do want to throw it out. Let's do a little Q&A here at the end, guys. I know we've got an opportunity to have a quick, concise show, and maybe we should take it. But there is some other stuff that I wanted to talk about.
We had a couple people ask about the WDRA.
Okay, well, that's what I wanted to talk about, and I do think next week, for those that don't know, there's been a lot of movement in the drag racing sanction and series kind of world over the course of the last couple of weeks, perhaps none more so than the formation of the World Drag Racing Alliance by series sanction owner, Don Scott, who's also the owner of Havana Central Illinois Dragway in Havana, Illinois, along with a track advisory council that includes some really big names in our sport. Scott Gardner, perhaps best known as one of a former IHRA president. He was also the owner-operator of Cordova Dragway Park in Cordova, Illinois, has had a tremendous level of involvement in the sport of drag racing for a long time. Jason Peterson from US 131 Motorsports Park in Michigan, fresh off Funny Car Nationals this past weekend, where the Midwest Drag Racing Series also appeared, by all accounts, an absolute barn burner of an event. Also, Royce Miller and the gang at Maryland International Raceway, Jeff Miles and the team at Darlington Dragway in South Carolina, Big things happening in the sport, guys. And Mike, as somebody that was kind of a front row participant in, drag racing's, secondary national event series, the IHRA, racing with your dad in the heyday of Pro Mod, if you will. I think we can all agree that it's important that there are multiple drag racing sanctioning bodies. I think we have to be careful. We don't need 600 of them necessarily, but we've heard it many times. I think one of the people who have said it the most and perhaps the most loudest recently is our friend Bobby Bennett at Competition Plus, that, the NHRA was never better than when the IHRA was at its best.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Do you agree with that? Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, and competition breeds innovation and improvement. So we'll see what this does, but I just worry that there's maybe not enough to go around, that I would like to see all three of these thrive: NHRA, WDRA, IHRA, and any other ones you want to throw in there. But we'll see if there's enough to go around to sustain two new newcomers, I guess you could say, to the market, and that remains to be seen. We don't want it to be like a lot of these classes where the same class is being competed at events across the country, and the car counts suffer. So it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. They've got a strong group at this WDRA. This kind of came out of nowhere after the IHRA news. I think once we had all digested that, then this came out of nowhere. And I think at first glance, it's something that you might not put a lot of stock in, but when you start seeing those names and those tracks that are involved, this is a serious deal.
How many tracks was it up to?
30. And I'm told
it's pretty fast. That's a lot of tracks.
Pretty fast, man.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you can do anything other than feel good about that. Like if I'm any of those guys, and I've only talked to a handful of them, but to get that kind of response that quickly, from what I've heard, they'll be at 50, perhaps by the end of the month. You think about, I believe the NHRA maintains 120 tracks in their member network. I think at its height, the IHRA had somewhere between 80 and 100. So to be at 30 to 50 in week 2, that seems promising in my opinion. But what I really think it brings to light is that there really is, what I'm seeing, if I look at this from afar, there needs to be a utility. I think that the World Drag Racing Alliance, and I haven't talked to anybody there. I've had one brief conversation with Jason Peterson. I've reached out to Scott Gardner. And those conversations will come in the following days. But I'll tell you that what I've been able to gather from the outside looking in is that there seems to be a real strong desire to serve as something of a utility for track owners and operators. And I think that is something that, not to bash on NHRA, but I do think that that's something that they've been lacking, is that there's been so much value, let's be honest, in just being associated with the NHRA. Look no further than the draw that is the Wally. Right? People racers will crawl across broken glass for the opportunity to compete for a Wally. Right? I mean, it is the ultimate accomplishment in the sport of drag racing, and we would be foolish to think otherwise. Right? However, I do think that one of the things the NHRA has maybe not focused on enough is providing templates and rubrics to track owners around the country who maybe are new to the sport. Right? Maybe they bought this track and they don't have a ton of drag racing background and they need some guidance, or maybe they don't know how to do certain things. I mean, I think about some of the conversations I had. I may get in trouble for this, but I remember having a conversation a few years ago with Jim Hughes, who is owner of Tucson Dragway out in Arizona, who is also deeply, intimately involved with the No Prep King series. And this was before that. And he reached out to me and he said, man, you'd be blown away how little information there is for a track operator to ensure their future success. He goes, I'm out here in Tucson, Arizona. This no prep, type of racing is starting to take off, but I don't know the first thing about a no prep race. I don't know how they do the rules. I don't know how the races are formatted. I don't know how they de-glue or no prepify the tracks. And it's interesting to me that seems to be the primary offering from this World Drag Racing Alliance. No Prepify is a new word.
Yeah, that's a new shirt.
I just invented it. Get a shirt made. But do you see what I'm saying? Where it's helping these tracks help themselves. Hey, we're not going to come out and do this for you, but here's a rubric for how to do this.
So is that what they're going to do? Because we've got questions here. What exactly is the sanctioning body offering to the drag racing world? What classes? Is it sportsmen? I
think they are focusing on sportsmen, right? That's what we've heard.
Well, I think they're not even focusing on certain classes, and I think that's where everybody's getting up in arms.
From IHRA, though, right? They're focusing on.
They're focusing on sportsmen.
So what each one offers and where they can differentiate, that's what's going to be key. Because if they're all offering the same thing, it's not going to work. But if you're a track operator and you prioritize or value something that WDRA is offering over IHRA or NHRA or vice versa, then that's going to help make your decision. So what they offer is key to the success for all of them.
I agree. And I think that I ask that's typically the first question I ask is what's your unique proposition here? What are you doing that is different? And what I really see the World Drag Racing Alliance leaning into and focusing on is not specific classes of drag racing, but more providing a blank, an insurance policy, a super series, a year-end points program, because for the longest time, that was the tip of the spear for the IHRA, was that Summit Super Series. I know in 2005, as a track operator myself, it was so attractive that my racers at my local track, 150, 180 strong for a weekly bracket program, they could compete in the Summit Super Series, right? They could pay the entry fee and be involved in that and keep points all year long, and then they could go race at the bracket finals. And perhaps most importantly, they didn't have to travel, right? They didn't have to go to Vegas or to Bristol or to Charlotte. They didn't have to go thousands of miles away. They were able to go race at their quote unquote bracket finals, the year-end mega race, and do it 2-3 hours from home. And I think that is way more of a driving force than a lot of people want to realize, is that, guys, most of these people have to be at work on Monday. Yep. So even if they run till late at night on Sunday, if they're 3 hours from home, they can get home, take a shower, sleep a little bit, and head to the shop or head to the office. And I think that that's what the World Drag Racing Alliance seems to recognize, is that they need to have a close to home option for these folks, for these racers that don't want to travel all around creation. And it's also going to be a haven for all the kind of secondary sanctions and series and events that happen in our country that perhaps wouldn't happen under NHRA's. NHRA runs a tight ship, right? I mean, there's very high expectations across the board, and they don't totally work for everyone. So I do think that there's room for this, but I agree. I think that there's a lot that's going to be figured out, in the coming months, if you will. I think this is going to be a really interesting end to the year when you look at it, like seeing who's going to be aligned.
We'll see what
with
announcements are made at PRI and things like that.
That's where we're going to find out a lot, don't you think?
I think so. I think that's probably we'll see a lot. I don't know, man. I was shocked when I got that press release the other day. 30 member tracks. That's big time movement, brother. I mean, that's big time movement. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, man. But I got to be honest, anybody that's trying, and I want to give kudos to everybody involved. I mean, IHRA, Larry Jeffrey, everybody that's involved, I believe, feels in their heart they're doing the right thing for the sport of drag racing. And I appreciate that. I absolutely want what's best for the sport of drag racing always. And I think that, everything that has happened here at Drag Illustrated over the course of the last 16 years has happened because that's our go-to. We always try to put the sport first. We quit putting on races because we thought it could potentially be detracting from some of these other sanctions and series and events. And it's like, we didn't want to convolute or compete. Things change, of course, but I'm just saying that has always been our focus here at Drag Illustrated. Our mission, it's no secret, has been to grow and build the sport of drag racing. And I don't know, I'm anxious to see kind of what happens next, man. Let's talk about real quick, briefly. Let's give a shout out to Kayla Morton, winning the No Prep Kings event this past weekend in Tucson, Arizona. As we were just discussing, the No Prep Kings series rolls into Denver, Colorado, Bandimere Speedway, incredible race venue here in the United States, man. Sure I'm actually bummed that I'm not going, but I just thought it was worth mentioning that. How about coming out of left field, right? I mean, obviously it
was an event that had some oddities to it. You had Ryan Martin. So. Ryan Martin went out in second round to Lizzie Musey, who then unfortunately had a top end crash. So then she's out. And then, you end up with two really newcomers to the finals in John Odom and Kayla Morton, and Kayla wins it. So it's always interesting when it's not a run of the mill race and you get some oddities like that happening. And we've always said Bandimere sort of feeds into that as well. So we'll see what happens this weekend.
I think we may well be surprised, because that is a track that you get into those odd conditions. And as you said, Mike, it kind of opens the door for somebody to swoop in and get down when no one else did, or make a good run when everybody else made bad runs. So I'm excited to see what happens, man.
And good for them too. They've really put in the work. They've been around since the beginning. It's pretty awesome to see them get the win.
I thought the same thing. I thought, man, Kayla, boosted Chris Hamilton, wonderful guy. Kayla has been there since day one. And to see her finally, seeing those photos that Courtney Paulshock posted on social media over the weekend of, I believe, Kayla's dad teary-eyed and an emotional embrace between Chris Hamilton and Kayla, like clearly a very special moment. And man, winning over there at this point in time is doing something.
Yeah,
It's doing something. You know,
there's very few and far between. You got so. I mean, everything did align right, but yeah, good for them.
Let's switch into NHRA Pro Stock. We'll stay on the subject of cars with doors, but I think that we may see. Listen, Top Fuel on fire, Funny Car on fire, tons of hitters. But man, Pro Stock. We saw the Elite Motorsports team dominate throughout the first part of the season, all throughout the regular season, look almost unbeatable. I can't remember what their total tally was. I had it written down somewhere, but I've lost it. But they've won, I think 11 maybe or so of the 16 races here in the regular season. Uncharacteristic early exit for Erica Enders and a handful of the Elite Motorsports team there in Indianapolis. We saw Greg Anderson win his 100th earn his 100th career victory in NHRA Pro Stock at the U.S. Nationals, and really clearly having come upon something that has improved their program. We don't know if that's under the hood and the bell housing and the rear suspension. We're not sure where that gain came, but clearly there has been a game. Who do you guys like here now that we're in the thick of things? We got 6 races left to figure out who's who.
Well,
Erica Enders leading the points. What's your thoughts?
Well, the first thing that's kind of wild is that there are 14 cars or drivers that are qualified for the countdown due to the rule that, correct me if I'm wrong, Wes, but isn't it if you went to every race and qualified, right? You, even if you finish outside the top 10, you get put in the countdown at starting at 1,990 points and on down, which if you look at all the classes, Pro Stock Motorcycle has no one that fit that bill. They cut off at 10, but each of the other classes do have 11 or 12 people, but Pro Stock has 14, which
real quick, let's just roll around. Do you guys like that or love it or hate it? Mike,
man,
go with you first.
I don't know where to fall on it, but I like it because it encourages participation. And I think that, hey, if that's what got those guys to all those races all year was guaranteeing their spot in the countdown, I'm for it in this era of all the uphill battles we have, as far as funding and fuel and economy, whatever, payout. I say if that motivates them, keep it.
T?
Yeah, I'm on the fence on it. I mean, if you're going to have the countdown, you're going to have it 10 cars, then have it be 10 cars. Yeah, I mean, it's just
how does the countdown?
If you want to get up there, then you need to race harder. It's
going to make it. It's going to be extremely hard to come back from like Chris McGahe's 1,960 points, and he's got to make up quite a bit to get in there. But it can happen. So it definitely puts you at a disadvantage. But it kind of creates the opportunity for more oddities to happen or upsets, and more people to still be swinging for the fence late in the year. So I'm for it in that regard.
On your other question though, I think I'm going to ride with Elite on this, and probably Erica it's nut cutting time, and they've proved all season that they've got something a little extra, and man, she's tough when it comes down to it. She's tough, and I think they probably have something going on over there, and it could be any of the drivers, but I think Erica is probably suited to. Redemption Tour continues.
I do think if I factor in the Redemption Tour part of this deal, I think we're going to see Erica this weekend with, not that we haven't, but you shake off Indy, things didn't go your way, and she'll be rolling into Maple Grove Raceway with her game face on. And there was actually a great comment here from Billy Carroll in the comments that nobody is going to find enough power to outrun the levers. I'd put my money on the light cutters, Erica Enders, Dallas Glenn. I tend to agree. I do think you've got to throw Aaron Stanfield into that mix. I mean, we've seen, and to Billy's point,
if you're going to throw, you got to throw Mason McGahey in there too.
Yeah, and TJ's got momentum too.
Yeah.
So,
man, but if you're going with the guys that are classic good levers, yet your conversation really gets pretty well centered around Erica Enders, Aaron Stanfield, and Dallas Glenn.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
sure.
if you're talking about the class's best levers, and everybody's sensitive to this stuff, but we're the ones that have the audacity and or balls to say it out loud. Those are the levers, right? Those are the guys that you 99 times out of 100 are going to be the first off the starting line. Right now, there's certainly guys. I mean, Greg Anderson is going to surprise you from time to time. Matt Hartford will definitely step up. I mean, I think he's a very good lever in the class. But I think it's going to be interesting.
Christian
oh,
Quadra.
my goodness.
He's a good lever.
These Quadra boys are on it, man. But now I think it's going to be interesting. If the good lords, if the racing gods wrap their arms around this deal and give us a countdown that sees Erica Enders and Greg Anderson going head to head, if we could be so lucky as to see them neck and neck throughout the course of the countdown, not that drag racing at this point in time needs another storyline or needs more storylines. We've got a slew of them, right? We've got a slew of them. But man, if we could get lucky enough to see those two titans of NHRA Pro Stock drag racing go head to head throughout the course of the NHRA countdown to the championship, that to me would be so poetic to see it come down. You know, I don't want this to happen. I don't want it wrapped up in Vegas. I don't want it wrapped up any sooner than maybe, if it came down to the final round, Mike, just imagine it comes down to the final round in Pomona, right? I mean, we can only hope, and for all the people that don't like the countdown, I get it. And I'm actually a traditionalist, typically speaking. I can completely make an argument for it. But when I put on my storytelling hat and when I think about the movie that I want to be, the movie that I want for 2022, we couldn't have had, Erica with a significant lead and just steadily pull away, right? We need this moment. It's fantastic for our sport, and it would be awesome to see those guys battle it out.
No doubt. And then what happens next year? How many of these guys are back next year, guys and gals? Especially if Erica wins the championship.
Big question, man. Big question. I think there's a lot. I look at that pro stock list. There's a couple of things. I do think it's worth noting that it has been great to see Bo Butner back. I do think Derek Kramer turned a corner there at the U.S. Nationals. They've been struggling, but it felt like we saw them start to turn the corner. Just seeing Bo out here, having this many good cars at all these races, I think our best bet for pro stock right now is to really really embrace this particular group of guys and hope we're able to maintain it. I don't know that we're going to see 10 more cars materialize over the offseason, right? But if we can maintain this group, there's some fierce competitors, there's some big personalities, and I think there's something to build on, man. I really do.
For sure. And we're talking about Greg and talking about Kyle Koretsky and those guys and Bo Butner. Those are cars that have come on lately.
Yes.
Like I said, they've kind of got some momentum.
And
as the cars gotten better, they're leaving better too.
Absolutely. And you know what? You made a great point there, T, that what can you say about Troy Coughlin Jr.? I mean, he went back to back, won a couple races in a row. I would tell you this. I could see it in him at Indy. Did you guys notice this?
He talked about it.
Seemed different.
He talked about it. Yeah.
He was
that was big. That was really big to get that win. And then the second one, oh my God.
Oh, right? And then get that monkey off his back and just be like, hey, look, we know we can do this now. It's not a wonder if whether or not we can do it. How about the news that it sounds like Jegs will not be back? There will not be a yellow and black pro stock car in 2023. I got to say,
That's
and I don't,
sad.
it's to be honest, I feel like it's a sad day in drag racing.
It's like we weren't ready for that. We weren't prepared. We thought there was we were going to see that forever. And it's one of those things that we'll miss it when it's gone, man.
I cannot imagine watching a drag race, to be honest with you, and not seeing a yellow and black car on the racing surface. And it's troubling for me, to be honest with you guys, because I do think that people really resonated with that. I don't know about you guys, but the Jegs group kind of became brothers in arms, extended brothers in arms, because I think the racing masses looked at them as fellow racers, right? And I think there was a unique relationship there. I think there was a real love affair with that yellow and black. despite, any issue that could have existed. Like maybe there was an option somewhere else to get quicker shipping. Maybe the part was available cheaper somewhere else, whatever the case may be. I think people time and time again would lean in or would dial up jegs.com because they're racers. They're my kind of guys.
It's the competition too. The competition between them and Summit. And like that kind of reminds me of the beer wars, when you had Bud and Miller. And it seems like once there's only one of those left in there, I know Greg it still has some Summit sponsorship, but that's their Jegs was essentially the only mail order parts left in pro stock. It seems to speed up the exit, and we saw that with the beer wars and Top Fuel. It's like when one of them goes, then the other one kind of is like, all right, well,
I'd double down.
The fun's over.
Summit, if I was Summit right now, I'd double down.
Oh, you and me both.
We could see that. We could see that.
Well, I mean, one can only hope, and it is another thing that a person has to be weary of when these acquisitions happen in our sport. We're seeing it. Mike and I were joking the other day, like it's become a business to buy businesses, and you buy these businesses and you do everything you can to make them more profitable on paper so that you can flip them, and you get a multiple of, a lot of times you get a multiple of revenue or a multiple of profit. And you want to make the company as profitable as possible. I mean, I heard of a solar power company the other day going for 25 times revenue, not 25 times profit, 25 times revenue, right? So that's just how much earnings they had total, So there's big opportunity in that buying and selling of businesses right now. And it's tough to see because you watch these companies that have established all that they have and built all that they have and have this incredible following and this incredible community that's kind of around them that they're a part of. And there's all these people, right, that have contributed to that. But a lot of times those people, unfortunately, are well paid, right? They've been there forever. They've got tons of vacation built up, what have you. And someone that's not emotionally connected to the project comes in and goes, oh, we need to cut all these people because they get paid too much. And we're going to use our marketing firm from over here or our people from over there. And we're going to, combine pool resources. And the next thing you know, you got a company that's lacking its heart and soul, So it's an interesting thing, man.
By the time you figure it out, then it's almost too late. And then you have to try to build it back up, Yeah, man. The damage is done a lot of times. So.
Yeah, it's a wild time, man. Wild time. Last thing, guys, I do want to remind everybody, you don't got to go solo on me if you don't want to, but the Wes Buck Show is brought to you by our friends at flowracing.com. If you're a drag racer or a drag racing fan, you got to get on board with Flow Racing. The world leader in sports live streaming, Flow Racing provides unlimited access to drag racing's biggest events like Donald Long's Lights Out, No Mercy, and Sweet 16, every stop on the PDRA and NMCA tours, Funny Car Chaos, World Cup Finals, Streetcar Super Nationals, and much, much more. The coolest part, other than being able to watch live drag racing almost 24/7, is the fact that you can do it on any device. I was watching this weekend on my Roku. Flow Racing is contributing 100% to the growth of our sport. The partnerships formed by Flow Racing with the promoters in drag racing serve only to grow drag racing and put racers and events in front of more eyeballs. The platform provided by Flow is changing drag racing for the better, and there's no limit to the good they can do. So log on to flowracing.com today and join the movement. You can also catch this show. Kind of crazy. Is it as surreal for you guys as it is
and you catch it during downtime? All of a sudden, man, you want the tractor to come out. You want some more track prep so that you can watch some more Wes Buck Show.
Exactly, man. Well, hey, guys, thank you for being here. Thanks for being a part of it. Huge shout out to Tyler Crossnoe. Best of luck to Tyler, Tommy, Judy, the whole team out there at Virginia Motorsports Park. Longtime friends of ours here at Drag Illustrated. I hope everything goes fantastic at the Shakedown Nationals. Hard to believe. I think it's like, what, the 20th year of this deal? 21st year of this deal? Something like that? 20th anniversary. Big,
they got
big moment,
shirts.
man.
If you go get your special shirt,
we should have had David Hance on here. Screwed up. Maybe we could do an episode Friday or something.
Get his own show.
Yeah, David Hance.
I'm going to be in Nashville Friday.
What are you going to Nashville for? Have you sent this to HR?
I have. Well, I am the HR department.
Oh yeah, you are HR.
Yeah. So I cleared it for myself. But yeah, birthday party.
For who? You?
No.
Good luck. You're gonna live out that meme that you posted.
I
Oh
did.
my
the
God.
other day.
Todd
That's gonna be
Langdon asks closing notes, and I want to say thanks also to Clay Millican, his wife Donna, for letting us borrow him on a Wednesday afternoon. I hope they have safe travels to Maple Grove and a fantastic weekend. I'm going to tell you guys, the question is, will Pro Mod ever be a professional category? Mike and I spent about an hour talking about this yesterday. My opinion is no. And I think that that's okay. You know, I think that as a community of racers and race fans, at some point we're going to have to accept that the NHRA, their focus is top fuel and funny car, right? I mean, it's their focus. And I don't know that we should vilify them for it. I think their secondary focus is pro stock and pro stock motorcycle, or what's the word for third and dairy?
tertiary.
Is third and dairy.
Tertiary. Their tertiary focus would be pro stock and pro stock motorcycle. And I got to be honest, being on the grounds, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but when I was at the U.S. Nationals, and there's 45 top fuel and funny cars there, right? There's 20 pro stock cars, 20 pro stock motorcycles. I mean, am I wrong? Can you fault the NHRA for not like falling over themselves, fawning at any other category? I mean, I can't really fault them for it.
There's a lot that comes along with it too, on both sides. When you make something a pro class, and we've talked about it before, it's sort of be careful what you wish for type of thing. If you think pro mod's expensive now, or tough to run in HRA, if they made
you
it
just
a pro
put them
class,
boys on TV and wait. You put all those cars on TV, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys. You put the NHRA Pro Mod Series as it is on television, that deal's in the ditch next Tuesday. I mean, because it's going to go from being right now, there are teams spending nearly $1 million a season to run NHRA Pro Mod, 10 races, right? I mean, the series used to be 12 races, but you're talking about between $750,000 and $1 million for like a high end, top flight, qualify in the top 4 or 5 cars. And that number will go up 50%, I would say, bare minimum.
Kind of like we talk about the KH era in ADRL and what that did to Outlaw Pro Mod, 8th Mile Pro Mod. And it just dramatically raised the bar for everyone. That is what I would see happening if Pro Mod became a pro class. Because I think it'd be awesome. I think the flip side, ultimate validation, but there's a lot that comes along with it.
I think the flip side is that you're going to get more people showing up to races and more people wanting that TV time. I mean, let's face it, they like being in the staging lanes. You've mentioned it before with all the stars of the NHRA, and if they're going to be on
until they can't afford it though.
Yeah, that's true.
Until
a lot of
they
these guys
can. Maybe. But I mean, we're seeing them complain about the cost and the escalating costs now.
Oh,
and I mean,
want to complain about everything.
But Pro Mod has roots in a different I don't know what you want to call it, but its roots are different than pro stock and a lot of these at this point, the fuel classes, even though they all of them start grassroots. Pro Mod clings to that good old boy grassroots. I built this myself. This is, the only thing I want to do.
I think about Ricky Smith. I tune the car. I drive the car. I drive the truck. I work on the car. I set up the awning. I think that mentality is still very, very much prevalent in pro mod racing.
It's what makes pro mod what it is. And if you take that away from it, you kind of got a different animal as well. So it'll be interesting to see.
And the NHRA has to be weary of this too, because one of the issues that I've seen rear its head in the past is that if you go put Pro Mod on TV, you run the risk of it outshining, one of your other Camping World Series categories, right? And if you've got a sponsor, then it starts to cannibalize itself, where it's like a guy's going, shit, man, I'm spending $4 million a year to be on this funny car. These things are pretty exciting, not quite as exciting, but pretty exciting. And I can go sponsor that car, full tilt boogie, lock, stock, and barrel for $500,000. Then you start to cannibalize your other categories. So it's tough. I mean, there's a reason that NASCAR doesn't have 6 other categories running on Sunday on the same track, because they need that deal to stand head and shoulders above everything else. So it kind of goes back to our argument that one time we had JT that I think we're both, right about, that, maybe your Pro Mod is the main event on Saturday night and they don't run on Sunday. Maybe it's a completely secondary
Pro Mod is a Saturday
thing.
night show anyway.
In
my
like
opinion,
that,
that's the roots of Pro Mod, a Saturday night quick 8.
You know, so anyways, it's an interesting thing, but I do think we have to be careful what we wish for, because it
And
will.
that could be used as filler on the next show, though, too. You know, like if you ran that, you know, it could be.
No, it's interesting. And I mean, there's plenty of the issue is that and I think part of the problem is that NHRA Pro Mod has never had the level of competition that they have right now. I mean, you've got a lot of great places to go race.
And I wanted to make that point too. When we talked about that NHRA has never been better than when IHRA was pushing it. I agree with that, but we, you know, Clay talked about it today and we've talked about it all year. NHRA is hot right now, very strong across the board. So that's a little caveat to what we said earlier.
No, I mean, and it's like, if I'm a Pro Mod guy, you know, no matter where I'm at in the country, other than the West Coast, I guess, but like if you're in the Midwest, you got the Midwest Drag Racing Series, pays $10,000 to win, good qualifying money, great race tracks, they marry up the Midwest Drag Racing Series events with other large independent events. I mean, that place at US 131 Motorsports Park this past weekend was packed to the gills, right? And Preston Tanner went out there in front of that crowd and running, you know, getting treated like a rock star, getting treated like the show, goes out there and races in front of that crowd. I mean, he's racing at a pro level. Now, granted, he, of course, wants to win a Wally. Of course, he wants to, like you were saying, be in the staging lanes with Ron Capps and John Force. But, man, you know, for the money and for the distance from the house, you know, it's pretty hard to beat. If you're out on the East Coast, you got PDRA. If you're kind of in the Midwest or Mideast, or excuse me, what would it be? Middle East of the United States, you got the NMCA. Really, really well done events all over. I mean, there's a lot of options right now. And if you're up in the New England colonies, you got the Northeast Outlaw Pro Mod Association. Hell, Yellow Bullet ran for $30,000 8th mile drag race over Labor Day weekend. So there's just so many options. It's a great kind of reminder that it can go too far one way, right? So, hey guys, thank you all so much for being a part of this. It is truly an honor to get to shoot the breeze and bench race with you guys every Wednesday afternoon. Remember, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Drag Illustrate, youtube.com/Drag Illustrated. Log on to dragillustrated.com to follow along with all of our other content that comes out daily. Thank you guys for being here. Mike, JT, appreciate it a lot. And we will see you guys next week.
Later, y'all.
Thanks, everybody.